Good morning, friends. Ash here, NPNP News. It's April 3rd, 2026. And for those of you that are celebrating holidays this year, I'd like to wish you a belated happy Passover and happy upcoming Easter. If you celebrate the beautiful holiday of Easter. Okay, right? And any other holidays in between that I missed, I appreciate you, and I hope you are enjoying time with your friends and family if that's what you're doing right now. I've been trying to stay positive, laying back, watching what's happening, and realizing a few things that I've already known really for a long time, but that I don't talk about that much, which is that you are in a chaos loop that is engineered, right? You are being fed stories. The public is fed stories that are meant to enrage and anger you. You are fed stories that are made to put you into a place of consternation where you can't understand why nothing ever changes. Why do these things keep happening? Why do people keep walking into schools and shooting people? Why are people going into synagogues and trying to kill people? And why are people burning down churches, yet nobody's attacking any mosques, really, right? Do you find that odd that people are attacking synagogues and churches like crazy, but no one has ever attacked a mosque? Very rare that you see that in this country, right? I think that's kind of a strange thing. And then what did you have? A Muslim soldier came out and said she's not going to obey, she's going to disobey commands to fight Muslims. And that's someone who's wearing a hijab in the United States Army or one of our armed forces saying, hey, I won't follow certain orders. Well, that person should be immediately discharged. And if need be, deported if they're not originally from here. That's what I'd do. The Republic of Somaliland asked U.S. to extradite Ilhan Omar there to face justice. That was a big article. What was a big article that just came out? Well, Pam Bondi got fired, right? Why did Trump wait this long to fire Pam Bondi? Apparently, he thought that she had told Eric Swalwell something about it and tipped him off about an investigation into him and Fang Fang, possibly. That was one thing I had read, and I don't know if that's true. If a Muslim soldier said, I won't follow orders if you tell me to attack another Muslim, well, how can you then have Muslims you might not be able to have Muslims in your military? Because there's no other religious group that says, hey, I won't follow your order. If you tell me to kill that Christian, I'll kill him. I won't hesitate. If you tell me to kill a Muslim, I'll kill them. I won't hesitate. You can't say, hey, I'm only going to attack certain people. Yeah. And well, if that's the case, you should have told those people that when they recruited you, that you're a Muslim and that you don't feel that you're a conscientious objector in terms of attacking other Muslims. Then they wouldn't have taken you into the armed forces, right? You should have never joined the armed forces if that's the way that you look at it. MEPs back plans for return hubs, raising fears of human rights black holes. European Parliament votes in favor of sending refused asylum seekers to offshore hubs, an historic setback for refugee rights. So you're seeing some of the leaders that just got in, like in Germany, they're saying now in the next 2 or 3 years that the new German PM is a woman, and she's saying within 2 or 3 years she's going to begin massive deportation policies of Muslims and others who have come over to Germany, and they're going to begin mass deportations. Which is a big, big difference than what Merkel was doing when she was bringing millions of military-aged Muslim men into Germany. Right? That's when we saw the instances of Taharush happening, which is when groups of men surround a woman at a concert or something and they rape her. And that happens. And there's so many guys that are surrounding these women at these things that they had to start changing they had to cancel certain concerts in some of these countries, right? Because they couldn't do it. They couldn't guarantee the safety of the concert goers, especially women, at these events anymore. You can go look up Taharush. I believe it's spelled Taharush. Skint Eastwood on X posted a video of a young girl in full panic as a migrant demands her number, and a brave local woman steps up and roasts them. So there was a woman that actually stepped in and says, "How dare you talk to this woman who's a girl, who's 13, who's this guy's coming up and demanding her phone number." Young females have been followed by some of these migrants in some of these countries, like Scotland, Ireland, England. Right? These are the whitest countries you could imagine, and they're pushing in these men of color into these places, right? Who are then harassing the young women. Why do you think they're doing that? What do you think they want you to do? They want the white men to rise up and kill all these people. That's what they want you to do. You see it? Don't you see it? Why do they want you to do that? Well, then I can come in and create a martial law situation. These people are going to kill all these guys. I got to do something about it. I got to put everybody in martial law until we can figure out what the hell we're going to do, when we're the ones who did it in the first place. That's what they want you to do. They want groups of white men roaming the streets looking to kill black men or men of color. And that's what's happening because of what these guys are doing in some of these countries. Here's another X.com post from Radio Genoa. New York's Muslim mayor opposes Trump's mass deportations. Remember when Mamdani was at one of those rallies and he was screaming, trying to knock a cop down, screaming in a cop's ear, in his face, getting all violent, trying to make a point? Right? That's your mayor now of your city, who's a virulent communist who loves to bring in illegal aliens to this city and spend our taxpayer dollars on them. I'm just surprised that mobs of people haven't been tearing down some of these migrant centers in New York. I'm surprised people are being so civil about it, because they're not being so civil about it in places like England now, in places like Germany now. And remember Germany used to have all the skinheads? Where'd they go? I remember Germany had massive amounts of skinhead gangs that would kick the shit out of anybody that they didn't like. Jews, anyone of color, they didn't give a fuck. Where are all these guys? Now that their cities are being overrun by Muslims and people of color from African and other countries, where are all these guys? I'm wondering. They seem to have vanished. Where's the German skinheads? Not that I'm a fan of them, but I'm just curious, where the fuck are they? Here's another X.com from Ayal Yacobi. At the University of Amsterdam, jihadists were beating students there with sticks. You can go watch that. That's an older video, but it still happened. That's in Amsterdam. Right? Another super white place. Not as white as it used to be. But here's based Hungary. Breaking, AFD Alice Weidel declares Germany's finished with migrants. Let's check this article out. I'm sorry, that was Hungary. It wasn't Germany. I thought it was Germany, but no, Germany wouldn't do that yet, right? They're not moving that far to the right in Germany yet. This is Hungary. Within 100 days, I will close borders, eliminate subsidies for migrants, and carry Germany's largest deportations. But wait a minute. Oh, it is Germany. It was Hungary based. Sorry, that's why I got confused. The guy's X.com is called Hungary based, but he's not Hungary. He's talking about Alice Weidel. Let's watch this clip because I think it's important. This is Alice Weidel, from the new. I think she's the new German, one of the party leaders, AfD party. See if I can get this clip to come up.
Wir haben einen Plan. Wir haben einen Zukunftsplan für Deutschland, den wir in den ersten.
Okay, well, this is it's for those who aren't watching and just listening. I'll try to read. She's speaking and talking about that within the next 100 days that she's going to close the borders, eliminate subsidies for migrants, and carry Germany's largest deportations. This is Alice Weidel. I'll just let it play out, and then if you can't, if you're not watching, just try to go to the link, and I'll summarize.
Ja, mein Plan.
We have a plan.
Wir haben einen
We have a future plan for Germany
den wir in den
that we will address in the first 100 days of our government participation.
Die Grenzen
close the borders completely and reject every illegal entrant and every person without papers and send a clear message to the world. The German borders are closed, dear friends. They are closed. Support for asylum seekers is switching from money to in-kind benefits. Benefits for those not entitled be cut. Okay, so you could watch the rest of it. She's basically saying what it summarizes, right? Enough. We've had enough of allowing illegal migrants to come into this country, to be given monies and subsidies that they should not get. These are the taxpayers' money. This is what our government in the United States and New York should be saying. But of course they're not, right? So you can check that out. Alice Weidel declares Germany's finished with migrants. Parent shocked after child played 5 Nights at Epstein game on school computer. That is a game that somebody created, just so you know. The goal of the game is to obviously avoid Epstein on the island so you don't get raped. So kids are playing this game, and I don't know how young the kids are that are playing it. Somebody made this game. It's it's not obviously a big graphics type game, right? It's one of those situation games that you can create that aren't that sort of like the first D&D type games, right? That they tried to come up with. Like you go down into a cave. You see a cave. Do you A, enter the cave, B, not, go down the path more, right? And then if you go in the cave, something happens, and if you go down the path, something else happens, right? Those kind of games are fun for a while, but then they got boring real quick, right? When all of a sudden people said, hey, wait a minute, I can do a first-person shooter and just kill everybody, that's more fun. And when those first-person shooters started coming out, like Grand Theft Auto, games like that, where you could just go crazy and kill everybody, well, that changed a lot. That was probably not good for society, right? Because a lot of kids got addicted to those kinds of games. And it desensitizes you to murder and killing when you start to play all these highly, some of these games now are so realistic, it's hard to tell if it's a real soccer game. They can make it look so real, right? That it's hard to decipher what's not real anymore in a game, or if it's a movie, or if it's real. J.D. Vance confirms Ilhan Omar committed immigration fraud, eyes legal action. Well, she lied about... She married her fucking brother to get him citizenship over here. How did she become... What I can't understand is how someone like that gets into a Congress or a senatorial position in this country when you're not even born in here. You're not born here. Was she born here? I don't remember. I don't think so. She's from Somalia, right? Her father had to flee the country before they got killed. They were part of the junta that got overthrown. They were part of the junta that hurt all the people there and did all the dirt. Norm Hamill, my long-time listener, was joking around about Cosby. I know it's not really that funny, but I hear your joke. I get it. I've had creepy old men around me before trying to, in gyms and doing stuff. So, you'd think some of these guys, you look at them and you think, oh, he's a harmless old guy. No, he's not. He's a creeper. Some of these guys are big-time creepers. Trust me on that. When I go to the gym, I don't shower there. I can't even enjoy the fucking steam room in there. Why? Because there's guys doing stuff in there. That's why. That's fact. I've worked in gyms. I've been in gyms many years. That's just fact. And if you think your gym is somehow different, it's not. Trust me. Trust me on that. You might want to be careful going in that steam room. You don't know what you're stepping on. It might feel like it's just water. I'll leave it there. It's a shame, isn't it? But you can't even enjoy these things because there's people that decided, hey, I think of the gym as my sex fiefdom. Fuck a gym. I'm just going there to fuck. Maybe I can find some young guy and go in the steam room. I don't think that's what happens on the women's side of it. It's the men's that's the problem. a fiery assassination plot against prominent Palestinian activist Nurdin Kizwani was foiled by the NYPD. Intel FBI says. So, interesting. There are groups that are starting to strike back, right? Mahmoud Khalil was spotted in New York by one of these guys on X.com who just goes around reporting on stuff, and he caught him, and he's like, "What are you doing here, Mahmoud? Why are you making plans in New York? Who are you making plans with? Are you meeting with Arab leaders in New York? What are you trying to do up here? You should have been deported, Khalil." Remember Mahmoud Khalil, right? Wasn't he the guy who was in a van with eight other dudes with no luggage, just happened to be transporting them somewhere? Yeah, we're moving together. We're 9 guys in a van. Yeah. None of us have any luggage, and we're just headed up north for work. Okay, where's your clothes? Where's your belongings? Oh, you just came over the border. Right, I forgot. Mike Lindell served court papers during an on-camera interview with CPAC. The woman's like trying to push the papers on him while he's on air. That's a good process server because they got to find your ass. And once they touch you with those documents, you're served, even if you didn't take them. He shouldn't have actually put his hands on her, but he could have been. That was close to an assault because if I'm a process server and I've dealt with this kind of stuff where I used to serve people certain legal papers in a job I had, not me legally, I would send the papers with a process server to serve people. You can't stop that process. In other words, if I'm standing there next to you, you're served basically once those papers touch your person. That's why you see people who are like getting served in a divorce. The men, they'll try to run and they'll try to avoid that at any cost, right? Because they don't want to get served the papers. If you don't get served the papers, they can't start the process, right? Eventually, you'll get served the papers, even if you're not home. They'll pound the papers into your door, like sometimes on a foreclosure. They'll pound the notice and they'll post it on your door of your house. You've now been served. So either way, they will serve your ass, even if you try to dodge the server. I'm not sure what Lindell got served with. He's being sued by some other party. There's been some movement in the Tina Peters case, but the judge they said that they now have to resentence Peters, that they sentenced her on her belief system. So that's interesting. But of course, they're not honoring Trump's, Trump pardoned Peters, but they're not releasing her, which is interesting. House Ethics Committee finds indicted Dem Rep Sheila Cherfilis McCormick guilty on 25 counts. So there's a lower level Dem Rep arrested. Something that's starting to maybe climb the chain, right? Maybe. Someone on the House Ethics Committee indicted one of the Democrats on 25 counts. It's not just a few things. So there's both of these parties are guilty of all kinds of stuff. I mean, look at how much Trump has enriched himself. If you were thinking how much Biden did, Trump's enriched himself way more than Biden ever did. By far. Look at what his sons are doing with the crypto coins. They're massively enriching themselves. Somebody's enriching themselves by shorting oil. Right? By saying oil's going to go up, and of course it did when you attack, if you shut the Strait of Hormuz down. There was this funny guy, and he's like this guy who he doesn't appear to be. He looks like he's a left-wing pundit, right? And he's out there in the crowd on the No Kings protest in New York, I think it was, and he was talking about the Straits of Hormuz and the gays of Hormuz. Of course, the Strait of Hormuz is an area, a physical area, right? It's a body of water where the ships are passing through. So he made a joke about it, talking about the gays of Hormuz are being attacked. And what about the gay rights of the gays of Hormuz? Which there are no gays of Hormuz. It was super funny. And the people were so stupid that they went for it, right? And they were like, yeah, we're all gay, right? All gays have to have rights. And yeah, of course, we're here. We support the LGBTQ community and all that shit. The problem is there's no gays of Hormuz. And they're not being attacked. Because if there were gays in those countries, they'd be probably ostracized and maybe even killed, right? You can't be openly gay in most Muslim countries. It's not accepted. You'll be ostracized. You may, in fact, be gang killed by a bunch of stoned to death by people or other, right? Depending. Beaten to death. These types of things have happened in certain Muslim countries. Go to the United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia and go look for a gay bar. I don't think there's too many. There's a lot of closeted gay men, though, in these countries. Trust me on that. Second Sphinx buried under sand suggests megastructure below the pyramids of Giza. Yes, the city of death, right? The city of, what was it? The city of, I think it was the city of death. There's a whole thing underneath there that they never uncovered yet. I heard that it was a long time ago that these things were protected with spells and curses so that it could never be found. Because I think under the Sphinx is other stuff. There's books in there. There's maybe Hermes Trismegistus hid some stuff in there for people to find later. Original texts of things, original Torahs, original Bibles, things like that. Like the first, because if you read the original Bible, it's way different, right, than what's out now. They found Ethiopian Bibles and super old Bibles that have other stuff in there that's not in the newer Bibles, right? And they're like, wait a minute, what's going on? Why did all these certain people get left out? Like the Book of Enoch and stuff like that. When you read that, the Book of Jasher, there's different books that got left out of the Bible that are like, you read them and you're like, holy crap, there's a whole part of the story that's not told. Certain people got left out of the story for some reason, if it's in fact true at all. And we know that the Bible stories, right, and all this is told generations after all these things happened. Like multiple generations. After Jesus died, that people started to write down this stuff, right? It was multiple generations after Jesus had died, though, already and been gone. I've always believed that Jesus is a 5-dimensional entity. That's why he could just jump in and out of 3D. He could appear wherever he wanted to appear. He's 5D. Probably upper 5D, right? Which means that he can do all kinds of shit that you can't do. New York Governor Mikey Sherrill signs law barring ICE agents from wearing face coverings. So now you can't, if you're ICE, you can't have a mask on your face. Well, you can do other stuff to hide your appearance. You can wear shades. You can you can wear a hat. It's harder to figure out someone's identity that way. You can all do other stuff to hide your face and your identity somewhat. Because these people are trying to dox them, right? CCP-tied activists desperately trying to keep Chinese land grabs alive near U.S. military bases. So they're still trying to want to get that land. We covered that extensively already, that there's a lot of land owned by Chinese entities. They're doing illegal weed grows. Look what they just did in Maine. They put a bunch of Somalians in there, I think, into Maine and just flooded it. Into a small town, and smaller towns where these guys have no way to make a living. They don't know what to do. They're going to freeze their fucking ass off all winter long. They're not ready for that. I think what's going to end up happening at the end of all this is most of these people are going to be forced deported out, either by gangs of people in the localities when they've harassed them enough, when they just decide to band up and do it themselves. That's what will happen in some places, and the people will just be forced to leave by force. And the police won't be able to do much about it, because if the whole town says we want these people gone, they'll be gone. Right? Because you can shut the whole town down if the people don't want to be part of it anymore, right? All right, maybe none of us will just go to work tomorrow. How about that? How long will your town last if none of us come in and do anything? Where are you going to get your fucking coffee? Where are you going to get your Dunkin' fucking Donuts? That taste like shit anyway, and give you horrible indigestion, right? Those are some of the worst donuts. When you go to real bakeries and get real donuts made the proper way, you don't get sick like that from Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts is shit. Europe home to estimated 1,000 no-go zones driven by mass migration and Islamicization. So now, there's all kinds of different parts of Europe. You can't even go in there if you're white. They'll kill you. You could get hurt, beat up. If you're a woman, you could be raped. Period. You're seeing women being accosted all over in some of these cities where these men come and they just want, hey, can I talk to you? I saw a woman post something. She just doesn't speak. She writes, this is what being a woman is like in Europe. And she just records all the men just leering at her everywhere she goes. It's just fucking disgusting how some of these migrant men are. They leer at them. They obviously stare. They have no concept of how to be a gentleman at all, right? They think they can just talk to you, and if you don't want, and if you say go away, they just continue to talk to you. I've never seen people act like this before. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I have seen people act like that, but it's not normal. Some of these women, you got to start training, man. You got to start doing boxing and shit. You got to start having that fucking attitude. I'm telling these guys to go fuck themselves. Start getting crazy. Start screaming. Start yelling. Why would you be so coward to these people, right? No, you got to get angry, dude. You got to start screaming. You got to make a fucking commotion. Or else these people will hurt you. And it's that fucking simple. The crazier you can appear, the better. Because when you look crazy, you don't look attractive. If you start barking like a fucking dog and screaming and doing all kinds of crazy shit, believe me, some of these guys will just run. They don't need the hassle. Because they know once you start screaming, what's going to happen? Some men will come, usually. Help, he's raping me. If he's attacking me, start screaming. They will come, and they'll beat the crap out of that guy. Trust me, a few guys will show up if you do that. Unless you're in a completely abandoned place, but still, make noise. You got to. It's your only real defense sometimes, is to start getting crazy. I've talked my way out of plenty of fights where I looked crazy, like I was going to, like, hey man, you want to go? Let's do it. Let's go all the way, though. I'm going to take you all the way fucking downtown. Just know, if I put you down, I ain't stopping. You ain't going to wake up the same as you went up to sleep. Let's put it like that, right? And get them scared. Get them scared that not only am I going to beat you, I'm going to hurt you bad as I can. I'm going to make it hard on you. I'm going to hurt you. I don't care if I get hurt. Make yourself look crazy, right? That's the point. And sometimes you can get out of some shit like that. Maybe. Until somebody calls you bluff. And believe me, somebody one day will. So don't go looking for fights, right? But don't also be a bitch all the time, because you can't. You got to stand up for yourself at some point, right? If that means training yourself how to fight, how to do jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, train yourself. Figure it out. Learn how to use different things as a weapon. Right? Get angry. Costa Rica to accept 25 third country deportees from the United States every week. That's not that many people, man. We got millions of people here that need to be deported. Millions. Not just a couple of hundred or 10,000. It's millions. Is Trump doing anywhere near that? No, he's not even close. We're already 4 months into this thing, and what has this guy done anything major? Has any major event happened? Has anyone gone to Gitmo? No. What about his first 4 years? No. Why would you think the next 4 would be any different? White House launches an app for real-time updates. Hey, now you can get news from us directly. You don't need any other source. We're the only source of news you need. That's a problem, right? Because you're the president. How do I know that the information you're telling me is correct? Or is it just favorable to you? I can't use you as a news source. I need an independent news source that's independent of you, that can ask you critical questions and that isn't controlled by some larger entity. I don't have news like that right now. All I have is controlled news and controlled pundits that don't ask these kinds of questions, that will continue to parrot back the bullshit that you put out there, and who won't think fundamentally or ask fundamentally logical questions about anything. A video released alongside the update stated there's been a lot of launches lately, referencing headlines about Operation Epic Fury in Iran. Relax, this one's an app. Yeah, don't worry about it. Just come to us for all the information. We're CNN, right? We'll give you all the data in an unbiased way, which is bullshit, right? They're the farthest thing from that. They're actually very, very biased, CNN. One of the most biased, right? But if you if you were not to know their history or anything and just turn them on, you say, oh, well, these guys seem to have it all covered, right? They know all the angles. No, they're not, because they're not telling you. Their pundits that they put on are all skewed towards one way, right? The Democratic outlook on things. And they're not going to put anything positive about the other party in to make you appear to think that they're, yeah. We're only thrive, we're basically Democratic run. Tiger Woods fucked up again, right? He's involved in a rollover crash. The problem with Tiger is he's abusing drugs that I used to be addicted to also a little bit, right? I was addicted to Vicodin for some time when I broke my leg. Vicodin is similar to OxyContin. It's just a little bit not as strong, right? OxyContin's a stronger... they don't even use Vicodin really that much anymore, although it's still used as a painkiller. It's a very powerful one, but of course OxyContin's way more powerful. Might as well use that. How about fentanyl? That's even more powerful than OxyContin. That's the next level, right? Now we can give you an infinitesimal small dose of this and it'll work. The only problem is if you take a little bit too much of that fentanyl, you're dead. Same thing with the Vicodin. It's just you'd have to take like 4 of the pills, right? I almost OD'd on those. You can't drive on this shit. It's not really... I never tried to. I was so fucking high out of my mind. I couldn't even think about driving. I don't know how he's doing it. Or is he even taking Vicodin? Is he still taking... his other problem was he takes a lot of sleeping pills. He's an Ambien freak, right? He likes to have Ambien sex. Which is you pop an Ambien and then you don't go to sleep and you stay up and have sex, which is not how you're supposed to use that drug. It's a fucking sleeping pill. You're supposed to take it and go into a dark room and go to sleep. Not stay up and start hallucinating and have sex. So this guy's all fucked up. Now he just screwed up his plans to come back for the Masters, which, come on, are you really going to be contending for the Masters at your age with the amount of surgeries on your back and your body you've had? No, it's over. You broke your leg so bad you'll never play the game again the right way. It's the same thing with Lindsey Vonn. She thinks she's going to come back and ski again. There's no fucking way. She must have got dissolvable pins or something, because you can't ski with pins in your leg, first of all. I know, because I got pins in my leg. And they're titanium. And they ain't never coming out unless you want to get a surgery. Now they have better technology. They got bone glue and, but she had such a horrible fracture to that leg. I don't see how she'll ever be the same. Trust me, you never will be. Neither will Tiger Woods. Trump let slip that Cuba's next after Venezuela and Iran strikes, before quickly adding, pretend I didn't say that. So, Cuba just released 2,000 people, prisoners. They were having blackouts. They don't have much fuel left. Russia had sent a tanker there that then ended up not landing in Cuba. I don't know if it was an embargo. They were told not to, but they didn't go there. Trump was alleging that that Iran had given him 10 boatloads full of oil as a peace offering, or 8 boatloads of oil. I never heard that officially in any... I'll have to look that up. Trump was alleging that's what they gave him. Tiger Woods' horrifying rollover crash is just the latest in a long list of scandals. Yeah, I mean, this guy shouldn't be driving. He says, I don't like to have a chauffeur because I don't want people to know where I'm going. Okay, well, where are you going that's so secretive? Are you screwing around on your girlfriend again? Or are you, going to crack houses or something? I don't get it. You can get a driver and pay him well and make him sign an NDA, and I'm sure he wouldn't tell anybody where you're going, right? He'd be getting paid. I'm Tiger Woods' private chauffeur. I got the good life. Maybe he buys you the car and you own it, and you could, who knows, right? There's all kinds of good deals you could work out if you're a driver for one of these super... But why wouldn't you do that if you're popping pills all the fucking time and getting high, just to make sure you don't crash and hurt somebody? And apparently this guy's got a lead foot. He likes to drive fast. Apparently he was trying to pass this, he was on a 2-lane road. He was trying to pass a truck or a car, and he miscalculated, and he clipped the guy, and he rolled over. He's lucky he didn't get more hurt. Panic inside the Pentagon after staggering report lays bare Tomahawk missile crisis. Yeah, we shot off all our Tomahawks. Those cost like a lot of money to make, right? You need a lot of silver for those. You need a lot of money. What do those cost? Like 20, 40 million each or something? So the Strait of Hormuz is closed. The gays of Hormuz they're all right because they don't exist. As far as I know, there's no gays in the Strait of Hormuz because they'd be in the water. They'd be drowned, right? We don't want that. Are there any gays in Iran? Sure. Sure. I'm assuming most of them have to be pretty deep in the closet. There's no LGBTQ over there. Senator Rand Paul reveals whether he'd run for president in 2028. I wrote, Paul may be humanity's last hope. He may actually be the only hope we have. Because he's one of the few politicians who I don't think is actually fully controlled. Neither was his father. If you want to watch some interesting back and forth, go watch Ron Paul's talking to Ben Bernanke, was it, who at one time was the head of the Fed, and asking him about, is gold money? It's a very interesting back and forth, because he's obviously saying that gold is money, but according to the Fed, it wasn't really money. They didn't want you to think it was back then. Right? So he was talking about gold all those years ago, and you know, the Fed didn't want to talk about that, right? The Fed wanted to do other stuff like sell worthless bonds and things of that nature, and T-bonds to other countries to buy our debt and subsidize it. U.S. soldiers seriously wounded in planes damage after Iranian missile attack. That was 6 days ago. Tanker with Russian oil skips Cuba, docks in Venezuela, second in limbo. So they never made it to Cuba. Cuba's going to run out of power pretty soon. It's amazing that a country could be in that big of a trouble just by not having enough oil, right? Well, that's how dependent we all are on oil. When people realize that if you take two opposing magnets, you can make free energy from that, right? There's people that are making lights that light up that way now. Well, yeah, I just put the magnet on there, it lights up, I don't need the light, I take the magnet and move it off, and it's not, right? People are making Tesla coils now and stuff. They've already been doing it. So it's just a question of time until somebody builds the Wardenclyffe array like on their land and shows that it could work, right? I don't know if anyone's trying to do that. I thought there was a Tesla tower in Texas a long time back, but I'm not sure if that's actually a Tesla tower or not. It appeared that it was, but they never built the rest of the array out to the system out. So obviously Trump was never going to give you free energy, right? He was instructed not to. He was instructed not to go into Area 51 and 52 and not to talk about it. And now he's feeding you the alien stuff, but I think a lot of people are saying, well, he's only doing that because they're going to do a Project Bluebeam type fake alien invasion type thing. I thought they would have done that by now. In like Trump's first term to fuck everything up, but they didn't do that. Is that what their plan is? They're going to do like a fake blue beam at this point and just to get everybody scared again? And then what? They're going to pull martial law thing? I don't know. Right? They don't have too many options left. But obviously a lot of people are starting to come out and say that Trump's not doing what they thought he was going to do. And now you got to start watching the Flynn people. What are they about? They were never with Trump. They were always against Trump, those people, because they want to run, right? They want to run for president. And if they can get rid of Trump and Vance and get them all fucked up, then it looks like it could be that, you know, a guy like Flynn could maybe make that move. And I told you, I don't trust Flynn. We did a whole thing about Flynn and his background before. He's one of the people that helped certain groups get control of the offshore oil that's offshore of Gaza, right? The platform. He was part of that. And he also worked for an offshoot of NSO group, which is the Israeli company, right? He ran for an American offshoot of, he worked for an American company that's related to that company. That's another company that they have. That's not really out there much in the public view yet, but it should have been. When Trump's people were vetting General Flynn, they should have known that he worked for those people and did that stuff, and it should have disqualified him. It would have disqualified him if I was vetting him. House Republicans passed stopgap DHS funding bill after rejecting the Senate version. So it was funded. That's why I had to put a question mark at the time, because it seemed like it was funded, but then they came out and said, no, it wasn't, and then Trump had to come. They had to do some other funding. Progressive Rep. Pramila Jayapal calls for reparations for illegal aliens traumatized by ICE. Are you kidding me? You came into my country illegally, and now you want reparations because you were traumatized by ICE whose job is to deport you if you come in illegally? That's your fucking problem. You were the one that snuck in here illegally. You don't want to be traumatized? Don't come into a country illegally and try to set up your life. I wrote, these people are insane. If you sneak into a country, you can't then ask for reparations because you were traumatized. You traumatized yourself sneaking into another country illegally. You caused this. Your actions caused it. It's not our fault. We're living here, right? We're in our country relaxing and enjoying ourselves. You've snuck into our country and come to New York, and now you want a room, you want food, you want clothes, you want your child educated in our school system. Who the fuck do you think you are? You're lucky we don't shoot you. Woke taxpayer-funded agency skips Mamdani's order to find sweeping savings to close New York City budget gap. They're not going to do it. We want the money that we want. We don't want to cut funds. We want more money. Each agency wants more money every year. They don't want less. That's why they use every dollar they're given, because if they don't, then they'll say, hey, you didn't use all your money. You don't need all this cash, do you? Hey, Department of Health, you don't need all that cash. Look, you only used 80% of your budget. Well, maybe we'll cut 20% off of your budget. You don't need that money. Oh, yeah, we do need it. Well, we'll use it. Don't worry. We'll use it next year. Bank of America's going to pay $72.5 million to settle the Jeffrey Epstein lawsuit. That's a lot of money. Right? Why was your bank allowing, Epstein to pay off some of the people he hurt? Why was he using a bank to do it? Why were you involved in that? Why were people from your bank in Epstein's house eating dinner with him as if they're like close friends? I've never heard of any rich person having their banker over for dinner. That's very rare. You have to be upper echelon rich to do that. Like Rockefeller type money, right? You can't just have like a couple of $1,000,000. You think the head of the fucking, or some big time guy's going to come over to your house? You got a $2 million account? No. You got to have hundreds of millions in the bank. Then they come running. I remember when I got hit by the car. I got hit by a car when I was 25. So like about a year later, I got a lawsuit and some money, right? So I go into the bank with a check for 50 grand, and I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt and sneakers, just regular clothes. I have my, this is before you could deposit it into the thing direct. So I have to go to the teller. I have my deposits. I have my deposit slip, $50,000, and you see the woman's eyes. As soon as she looks down, she didn't even notice me, but as soon as she looks down at the deposit slip and sees how much money it is, her eyes lit up a little bit, and she starts calling me, sir. Would you like to meet the manager, sir? Would you like to come back to the back with us? We can talk to you about some investment opportunities. I said, no, thank you. Just deposit my money. But all of a sudden, I got treated completely differently. Why? Because I had money. Bill Gates' pal Boris Nikolic asked Jeffrey Epstein for nude pics of hot girls, bantered about strippers. I mean, is this guy an idiot? You never heard of like a Playboy magazine or something? Go get a copy of Jugs and leave me alone. That's what I'd say if I was Epstein. What are you talking about? Young? You want me to send you pictures of young hot girls? That sounds like I could get in trouble doing that. I don't collect these kinds of things. Like, who is this guy? Bantered about strippers. Well, you're in New York. You know how many strip clubs there are here? Because you can go. There's plenty. You can go find strippers all over the place. Expensive strippers, cheaper strippers, hood strippers, whatever you want. We got it all. Every sexual deviancy you could think of is here in New York. You could find it. You could find somebody that'll cater to it, probably. almost everything. Not, of course, anything, but close to it. JFK's personal secretary wrote an explosive hidden memo claiming he was murdered in a secret U.S. government plot. Yeah, I mean, most people at this point know that. I don't think we still to this day know exactly who killed him, though. Like, what was it? Well, whom gave that order? Who was the right higher up that did it? But it was obvious what JFK was doing was he was bringing the greenback back. Was one of the things he was doing. He was going to start printing our own money again, real money, greenback money, not the what they were doing. Right? They would have to have a responsible way of printing your currency, not fiat like we've been doing. And the other thing, he wasn't interested in going into the Vietnam War. That was also another reason he was killed, because if you think about Goodyear and these companies, they had huge rubber plantations were in Vietnam, and they didn't want those rubber plantations disturbed and under the control of communist forces that would kick out Goodyear and these companies who relied on that cheap rubber supply and rubber trees to keep them competitive, right? If I can get a lot of cheap rubber from Vietnam, yeah, I'd like that, because I can then sell that rubber overseas at a profit, right? It's the same thing if I take a bunch of coke, where if I'm in the jungles of Colombia, I could get coke real cheap probably if I know the right people. If I take that block of coke that I bought there and I could transport it to New York City, it becomes hundreds of times more valuable on the street, right? Why? Because it's a product that is not readily available and that is illegal, right? So once you illegalize a product, it becomes harder to find it. It becomes more pricey. Just like during Prohibition, a jar of hooch, which would, to make a jar of hooch, if you're a moonshiner, is not that expensive to really make. But that jar of hooch can go for $10 back in the day. And that's $10 back in the early 30s, late 20s. That's a lot of money. $10 was a lot of money in the late 20s. And if you're getting $10 a bottle, a jar, that's a lot of money. FBI Director Kash Patel was hacked by Iran. And it was interesting when they hacked him, what did they find? They found that he traveled to Cuba, I believe, before he was the FBI. If he traveled to Cuba while he was the FBI head, that is highly dubious. Because he has no business going there in any official capacity. I'm assuming he traveled to Cuba before he was president, and he's smoking, Cuban cigars and stuff. It just looks weird. Iran war will be over in weeks, not months, says Marco Rubio, as he insists the conflict will end without any ground troops. So he's saying no ground troops will go in. I don't think we can. He might be able to put limited troops in, but a full ground assault, no. Can't do it. We lose that. I'm almost sure of it. We just don't have enough troops. I don't think we have a 1 million man army at this point. We might, but not that. I don't think so. I could be wrong. I'll have to do some more. What our troop strength is right now. We do obviously have advantages in the air and in the sea right now on them, but not on land. Missing American Airlines flight attendant feared to have fallen victim to terrifying Devil's Breath plot during layover in Colombia. Again, if you're in Colombia, please be careful. I wouldn't travel there at all right now, if I were you. Because they got the scopolamine now in like a mist, right? They can put it in like a water bottle, right? Like a spritz bottle, and just spray it on you. Right? And then boom. You don't even need to take this stuff. So it's a super dangerous drug, scopolamine, which is called the Devil's Breath, right? It can put you into a catatonic state where you basically can't move. It's dangerous, and just, Colombia is a super dangerous place. I would not recommend going there as a tourist, no. There's other places in Central or South America you could visit that are safer. Mamdani's new deputy for community safety helped run Soros-funded group that backed abolishing cops in jails. So Mamdani's putting in a steady supply of bad people, mostly of color, who don't know what the fuck they're doing mostly, and are either already been known to be a tool of another administration or just somebody that's going to go along to get along type people, right? Clogged toilets, charred laundry, sailors sleeping on the floor, snafu sidelined $13 billion U.S. aircraft carrier. I mean, you spend $13 billion on this fucking thing and you can't make the toilet work? How embarrassing is that? To American craftsmanship and the reputation that we once had as being builders of stuff. We don't really make stuff anymore. And a lot of the stuff we do make is shit. Unfortunately. You can't even make the fucking toilet work. Plus, these types of boats are old, right? They don't work anymore. They're too slow. They don't have enough defensive capabilities, and they've been, like, if you look at China's new carrier, it's way more advanced than what we have. Suez Canal could be closed by Houthi attacks and Western economy shattered as Yemeni militia enter Iran war. So now you got the Houthis starting to fuck around. I think this is really what Trump wanted. They're saying, no, it's the Israelis that did this. Trump just got pulled into it. I don't think so. I mean, he killed other Iranian leaders in his first term, if you remember. He was messing around. But we have to get these people out. These are the people that Obama gave all the money to, right? And nobody at the time was asking, why are you getting, where's all this money coming from? Why are you giving it to this country that's obviously been, Israel must have been like, what the hell are you doing? The whole time they were screaming, why are you harming, right? These people. And nobody could answer it. Here's an opinion piece somebody wrote. Tiger Woods should never play golf again. Top analyst claims after latest car crash. I mean, how many times can you keep fucking up and you keep getting chances? Why should this guy get a special dispensation to get into the Masters for? He didn't earn it. You didn't play your way into the Masters. You're getting a special dispensation or a special pass to get in because you've won it in the past and they want the ratings. That's the only reason they're letting him play, is he gets more ratings for them. That's the only reason. If he was some loser and he never won a tournament and was doing the shit that this guy's doing, he would have been kicked out of the tour a long time ago. I wrote, Tiger should retire, then he could take all the meds he wants and get a chauffeur. Laying down ego for people like this is very difficult. The glory days are long gone, baby. It's time to rest, right? Your glory days are long gone. You're never going to win this thing again. I'd be shocked if he could win it. Everybody else would have to play like complete shit. And this guy'd have to be having the tournament of his life for 4 straight rounds. And let me tell you something. When you fuck your leg up as bad as he fucked his leg up, walking 18 becomes a nightmare. Especially after 2 or 3 rounds. That leg's going to be getting stiffer and stiffer. And if you get a cold day, forget it. You're fucked, man. Your leg's even worse. If you get one of those cold, rainy days like it is we get up here in New York, you are totally fucked. Your leg's going to feel like it's like a stiff piece of board with no flexion and no movement in it. Trust me on that. You'll never be the same. You break your leg, you're never the fucking same again. It's just, you can't be. Even if you break it clean, it's never going to be as good as it was before it was broken. Is Trump hooked on war porn? The disturbing rumors about what really goes on in the Situation Room and why it makes the president think he's winning. They can make it look any way they want with these like manga stuff that they're showing where it's like black and white. You can't really see the actual footage of it. Remember the smart bombs with the camera on it? You used to see the bomb going towards it. They would show you the bomb footage, right? It would like be flying right into the building. You'd see it. You don't see that anymore, right? You don't actually see the troops being killed. You just see an explosion that's in black and white. Oh, you can't see what's actually being blown up even half the time. Trump threatens to abandon NATO because it's done nothing to help in Iran and says America may not be there anymore. Hey, you should have never given them all the money in the first place. The city that never sleeps is to get 11 p.m. lights out order under Dem New York State lawmaker proposal. Manhattan Assemblywoman Deborah Glick's proposal aims to reduce energy consumption, cut down on light pollution, and protect migratory birds. Darker blocks mean more crime, though. That's the only bad thing about that, because that used to happen when, like, in the city where like a lot of those old street lights weren't working in certain neighborhoods and they wouldn't always change the lights out as fast as they should. Well, yeah, you leave blocks that are like dark, right? And there was a lot of crime back in the 70s, man. A lot of crime. Way worse than it is now. Although it's getting close to 70s level here. Yeah, migratory birds, but don't build clear glass buildings. That's what kills migratory birds the most. It's not the light as much that doesn't. It's the lights that they're using now aren't even real bulb lights, right? They're using those horrible, I don't know what the new lights are that look even more bright. You can see them from space. Those are horrible, those new lights they're using. House rejects Senate's no ICE DHS bill. Passes short-term plan for full funding. The 60-day stopgap bill in the House passed with a vote of 213 to 203. So they reject the no ICE DHS bill. You have to have ICE. I mean, if you don't have ICE, then you have no real function, or you have no way to get illegal aliens out of your country and in numbers, right? You need ICE for that. Senator slammed for leaving D.C. on first-class flights while leaving TSA DHS workers unpaid for 43 days. A deal has not been reached 43 days into the partial shutdown. Yeah, one of those people that was on the first-class flights, by the way, was Bernie Sanders, the communist, right? So shouldn't you be flying coach, Bernie? No, he's a millionaire. Why would he fly coach? If I was a millionaire, I'd never fly coach again. Coach sucks. You ever fly business class or first class? If you did, you probably never want to fly coach again, trust me. If you're in first class, while everybody's boarding, you're already boarded. You're already ordering your fucking dinner and getting your first glass of wine while everyone's getting on the back. And you're telling them, what do you want for dinner, the steak or the shrimp or both, right? I only flew first class once. It was pretty nice. And that was only because I got upgraded because, I don't know, they made a mistake or something. They upgraded me because they made some kind of an error. I said, okay. I'll never fly first class again probably, so let me try it. And boy, is it nice. You got more foot room, right? The stewardesses are way more like friendly to you. They're all coming all the time. You can get all kinds of extra stuff, right? You can get as much sodas as you want. Or I don't know about alcohol anymore. They usually cut people off a lot sooner now. It's way better in first class. Mounting concerns about Iran sleeper cells after 1,500 Iranians are stopped at the border. Yeah, we've had Iranians coming in there a long time. There's all kinds of Iranians and Iraqis here now. We have a big problem in this country. We have way too many of certain groups of people here, and I don't have a problem saying it because it's true. There's way too many people here from Central and South American countries. And there's way too many Chinese people here who are illegally here, some of them, right? Some of these groups they've been coming in using birthright citizenship for decades, like I've been talking about with the Chinese birth hotels. That's now coming back into the forefront again with Trump because, why? Because there's so many illegal Chinese people here. You're talking about millions. Probably. If not a million or more, in just in New York. Probably half of Chinatown's probably not even legal. And there's a ton of Chinese people over here doing illegal actions like brothels and stuff like that. There's a lot of Chinese brothels and massage parlors here, some of which are legitimate and some are not, right? I've said that before. And, there's a lot of people over here who are sex trafficking Chinese women. There's no question. That has to change, but that's never changed. I've never seen any mayor take on those brothels and take them out. Very rarely is it done. And it's not hard to do it. And there's thousands of them all over the place. Skeptical Missouri congressman on mission to crack open America's secret UFO bases. Well, good luck. They told Trump not to touch it, I'm assuming, because nobody ever went into Area 51. And I'm assuming because at some of the lower levels of these underground bases, if they do exist, I'm assuming that they're run by aliens only. That's what I've heard. That there's levels that are non-human aren't allowed to go on at all, humans. So if that's the case, who's running your government? Is it human beings? Probably not. I mean, you saw the thing where Bush is talking about the New World Order, Papa Bush, and he's got the lizard pupil, right? Well, if the first Bush had a lizard pupil, then What do you think? That everybody after that wasn't also controlled? Obama, Clinton, Bush Jr.? Anti-Jewish crime reporting method changes under Zoran Mamdani, lowers figure. So what is he trying to do? Make it seem like there's less things happening against Jews when it's actually probably rising under his leadership, I'm assuming? Minnesota Elections Office subpoenaed in federal probe involving non-citizens on voter rolls. So we're seeing that all over the place. We know there's non-citizens on the voter rolls. We've known that since 2016. Why has nothing been done about it since? Why is it that in Trump's first term, after he gets in and realizes there's all this fraud, doesn't he do some concrete things right there? He doesn't do anything, right? He doesn't secure the election. He doesn't secure the midterms or the 2020 election. He allows Dominion machines to be used again in the 2020 election, making sure that Biden can come in, right? Think about that for a second. If you know they're rigging it, and you know they've always rigged it, and you finally get in, you've got to take the rig away from them. But he never took the rig away. He left everything in place. He never got rid of the GEM system, which half the country still uses. And he never got rid of Dominion voting machines, and he never got rid of CIDL servers. CIDL source code, which we know has a backdoor in it. Right? Because we've looked at the hacker report that they hired a hacker to try to hack into CIDL, and they said, yeah, it's easily hackable. There's a backdoor already inside of it that's set up just for that purpose, that allows the hacker, if they know about this trapdoor, to go in through the back door, change vote totals, and then leave without leaving any trace. Ghost in the machine. Pentagon prepares for major escalation in the Iran war with ground operations set to last for weeks as U.S. Marines arrive in the Middle East. So it looks like they were apparently trying to go in and do certain missions. Are they looking for that Stargate? I'm assuming so. I think there's a Stargate there, is what I'm guessing. Or a portal or something important. Something that's messing up the Earth's energy. Something that's there that they need to maybe control. I don't know. But see, there's people still thinking that Trump is the good guy. I'm not assuming that. I've never assumed it. I don't think Trump is the good guy in this. And I've told you why many, many different times. Because we should have had many more items available to us. Now we have nothing. They had med beds in 2016 when Trump got in, I'm pretty sure. So the question is, why weren't those ever given to us? Why did he talk about them now and then he never does anything about it? Why does he say he's a time traveler without any proof? I mean, what does he think people are going to think about these statements? I don't know. Why did Kash Patel go to Cuba? Why does he allegedly have an Indian bank account? Is that true? Because if he has an out-of-state bank account, that's a problem, right? Especially if you're the head of the FBI. Why? Well, because somebody could put money in that and try to bribe you, and nobody knows about it. It's an account that nobody knows exists. It's a way you can be controlled and bribed and not in a secretive way. Here's Paul A. Sabula's X.com or Bubble Bath at Bubble Bath Girl. Alex Stein was in Dallas, Texas, where he repeatedly called the No Kings protesters vaccinated retards to their faces. Watch this and enjoy. It's pure gold. So it was super funny, this guy. He really did make a mockery of these people. And he's basically saying, yeah, I mean, most of these people, you're vaccine injured. The vaccine has done something to your mental process. And I think that's true. Because these people aren't thinking correctly. They're just... the stuff they're saying doesn't make any sense. They're uneducated. They don't know what's really going on. They don't care to know, right? There's only two kinds of people, I told you, in the world. Those that care to know and those that don't care to know. And that's it. You can only be one of those two groups, right? A lot of people, it's too upsetting. I don't want to talk about politics. I don't care about it. I think Trump is evil, and that's all they'll say. And they don't want to do anything about anything, right? To change anything. And so they let things stay the way they are. They put their head in the fucking sand, right? Here's Mahmoud Khalil being confronted by pro-American activists in downtown Manhattan. You want to check this out? This is kind of enjoyable. Here's a guy that doesn't give a shit, doesn't take shit from anybody. And is trying to force a comment out of Mahmoud Khalil, who came out of a building. Why is he in New York? Here's Mahmoud Khalil via Urban Warrior.
Mahmoud, I love Intifada Khalil.
There he is.
Supporter of Hamas. Just had a rally. You know who I am. Hello, Mahmoud.
Hello, Mahmoud. You know who I am. I'm the Urban Warrior. What's up, Mahmoud? What you doing in New York? Why are you making secret plans with people when you were just a ferry guy for illegal aliens before? Now you're in high-level meetings in New York City? Who are you talking to, Mahmoud? Are you a Hamas supporter?
Tell us why you stand with Hamas. Tell us why you think it's racist to stand with Hamas. Why do you stand with Hamas? Why do you support Hamas, Mahmoud? And why do you want Intifada in the USA? Why do you want Intifada in the USA? Please don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
So this guy has a whole... He has a whole entourage with him now, Mahmoud. Right? He's got different guys with him. This is a high-level dude. This isn't some dude that was just ferrying people around in a car. This guy's a high-level dude. He's got a whole phalanx of people with him now, right? And the Urban Warrior is the only person I'm seeing that's even reporting on this. Where's NBC, CBS?
America, I can speak. This is Mahmoud Khalil, who stands with Hamas, who wants Intifada in New York City.
So here's the bodyguard. Here's one of them. You could tell he's trying to keep this guy away from Mahmoud over here, and he's trying to make him look stupid.
Right? Right? Mahmoud Khalil wants Intifada in New York City, doesn't he? Doesn't he?
Who are these guys? His lawyers? Who are these two, right? He's got lawyers with him. He's got a bodyguard. This guy's making plans, right?
Mahmoud Khalil, there it is. Mahmoud Khalil loves Intifada, supports Hamas. That's right.
Supports Hamas.
Don't touch me. You put your hands on me. Do not put your hands on me again.
Who is this guy? I wonder, is this guy the lawyer, or is this guy, he's got something on his shirt I can't read.
Do not touch me. This is America. This is America. No, this is free speech. This is Mahmoud Khalil. Mahmoud Khalil.
Hamas supporter. So the question is, this is viral news in New York City. I'd probably follow this guy over, watching Channel 2. If I watch Channel 4, do I know that Mahmoud Khalil was in New York City making plans, that he has what appears to be lawyers around him and bodyguards? I wonder why. Where does this guy have the money to, who's really running Mahmoud Khalil? Maybe CARE, maybe one of these Muslim groups. Here's a pro-Palestinian wearing a mock suicide vest in New York City. I mean, when are you going to wake up? These people are walking around in my city wearing fake suicide vests. They're trying to do mass prayers in Times Square. I'm going to have to take a quick break soon. I'm still recording. I need some more coffee, guys. I hope you're doing well. My name is Ash. This is my news punditry show I've been doing since 2000. Right? We were the ones that were talking about Peter Daszak, right? We were the ones talking about COVID being a scam from the get-go, right? Remember that? We were on point all during COVID. This channel had it right all the way through. We tried to warn as many people as possible not to take that vaccine. And I never took one dose of it, and I was ostracized by my friends, my family. I was kicked out of basically most of my family functions because I would not take that vaccine. And I'm proud to say that I never did take it, and I'm proud to say that I did everything in my power to try to warn as many people as I could not to. And all the people out there who were telling you to take that vaccine, I'm surprised anyone's listening to those people. Those people should have been tracked down and made to pay for it in a court of law, and for doing that, right? Anyway, I hope you're doing well. I'm proud to have done this news punditry show for 6 years, making no profit, which is why I changed the name to Non-Profit News Pundit. There's not many others that are doing it this way, and I'm proud to do it this way because I'm seeking one answer, right? I'm seeking the truth. That's the one thing I'm looking for. I'm not seeking to lie to you. I'm not seeking to sell you gold and silver coins. I'm not selling you t-shirts and jackets. I'm not selling you hopium. I'm talking about factual documents that I can find that are hopefully going to lead us to a conclusion of what's actually going on. And when you do the research, you start to understand that you're not living in a normal world. You're living in some kind of manufactured matrix, as far as I could tell. And once you get to that conclusion, everything else kind of gets knocked on its head, right? Because logic goes upside down in a world like that. Because it's not a real world if you're believing that. You're not in a real world. You're in a simulation. Like a Sims game, right? And if you're in a simulation like Life on Earth or whatever the simulation game is, Sims version, Earth version, and some aliens are playing this shit with your fucking life. I don't know at this point, but I'm done with the simulation. I'm done giving my energy to it, which means I can exist outside the simulation and look for truth and try to jump back in the simulation and show you stuff and then jump back out, because I'm not in the simulation really anymore. I choose not to be, as little as I can possibly be in it. Therefore, I give as little of my energy as possible to it. And as we wake up as a species, as we wake up as a human species, right? Human, as we all wake up and realize we're all one, and we can co-create as one, then that's why we'll wake up and enough people will be awake to realize it. And we're very close to that right now, where enough people are awake and realizing that what's happened to us and are asking the proper questions that will lead us to the proper answers. So I hope you're well, working out, stretching. I'm going to go get this coffee. I'll be right back in one moment. There is some positivity happening here. I don't think it's going to be led by Trump, though, and those people. I think they're part of the problem. So, but eventually the truth will come out. And when it does, it'll awaken the masses in such a way that they can't ever go back to sleep again. Because once you really wake up and you have your real Kundalini awakening, you can't go back to sleep. You can't do it. So friends, I hope you're well, working out, stretching. I'll be right back in one moment. I appreciate you. In the meantime, you could do some push-ups, sit-ups, and burpees, and I'll be right back. Thanks, friends. Okay, I'm back. Thanks, friends. I appreciate that break. So I'm not going to show the guy in the Palestinian in the vest, but I'm really, what surprises me the most is how so many of these places, including New York, the people just don't seem to have the will or the means to fight back against this anymore. They seem to be cowed by it, right? When these people come out and they come into your neighborhoods and your cities, and they're violent, they're milling around, harassing people, and nobody really does anything about it. But you're starting to see that people are doing stuff about it now. But this has been going on for years, of this agitation in some of the places where the people are being robbed and they're starting to get fed up with it. It's going to get to a point where it's going to become very violent. And I think that point is coming soon in some of these places. And it's probably going to be the only way that it gets fixed in some of the places, right? I'm sorry to say that, but that's actually the reality of it. Because I don't see these like in Spain. What do you think, that the government's going to get rid of the people? They're the ones that just allowed them all in. Well, what are you going to do about it? I don't know. That's going to be those people's. And I'm not telling anybody to do anything specific about anything. I'm saying at some point people are going to make up their mind to do certain things. And some of those people, whether it's the right thing or not, is debatable. But try living in some of these towns where you're being on the daily harassed. What if your daughter was hurt by one of these guys? What would your feeling towards them be then? Would you then be willing to maybe do violence onto them and to get them out of your town? Yeah, you might. You might. And I'm not condoning violence. I never have. I've always said that violence is never really the answer. But in some cases, very extreme cases, it is the answer. Because there is no other answer. Because the forces that beat don't want there to be, right? In other words, when your government doesn't protect you anymore, when your government is the one that's in fact importing people into your country that are hurting its own citizens, what does that say about your government? Does the government of New York City, the infrastructure of New York, care more about the citizens of New York City, or does it care more about illegal aliens that have snuck in here? It appears that they care more about illegal aliens that have snuck in here, which is not what you were elected to do. I wrote, when is America going to wake up before they actually start blowing themselves up? with these vests, with what if a real guy comes out right soon. Here's Mamdani getting heckled by a Puerto Rican with fire in his heart. Don't touch him, he knows his rights. So Mamdani tries to go up to certain neighborhoods. He's getting heckled all over the city, and it's not by like white Jews like you think it might be. Some people say, oh, it's just white people that don't like Mam. That's not true. It's all kinds of different people don't like him now. Why? Because he's talking about raising taxes on people who have houses like that are around a $600,000-$700,000 range, which is a lot of the houses in Brooklyn and Queens right now. And a lot of those homes, some of them are owned by people of color, and they're not too happy about it. Why would you be? Your property tax is about to go up. And if I'm, say, a landlord and I bought a 2-family house and I rent the other half, that means I'm going to make less money every year. But I still got to heat that dwelling. I still have to pay for oil and expensive items that don't go down. So there's a lot of middle class, upper middle class people that have made a pretty decent life for themselves here. Some people here illegally made a decent life for themselves buying real estate, taking advantage of low mortgage rates, buying a couple of properties, renting them out. And you could do all right for yourself if you know what you're doing. But if your property taxes start to go up, that eats into the profit you could make. You're paying the state more now. Charges move forward against former Michigan Dems treasurer accused of embezzlement and fraud as woman's conservator. That was on March 13, 2026. So the Democratic treasurer in Michigan was accused of embezzling funds. That's a crime. Foreign big-rig drivers lose licenses by the thousands, but rideshares still use illiterate drivers. So some of these guys literally can't read who are driving trucks. There was one guy in a gas station or someplace using a little hose, and he thought that was the hose he was supposed to use to wash his truck off. So the guy's sitting there using his hose that's not supposed to be for that to wash his whole truck, right? He thinks he's going to use it. And the woman's saying, what are you doing? You're not supposed to. And the guy's like, huh? He doesn't speak English. How are you in the United States driving around on our roads and you can't read English? How are you going to know what state you're in? How are you going to know what, what the stop sign is telling you to do, right? How are you going to know where you're going? How are you going to deliver goods to somebody if you can't speak to them? So that what they're doing is they're trying to find any jobs that these people could do, right? Putting up a shed, a construction shed in New York is one of them because they don't need to speak English to do that. They just show them what to do and they do it, right? Just show up and do this job. But where are these people living? I don't understand. How are they getting apartments here in New York when they don't have any background, they don't have any papers? You can't rent an apartment here without a lot of different paperwork showing you're an American citizen. You have to have working papers and papers showing you have a salary, where a letter from your employer, all these things. They're obviously being illegally kept somewhere. Yemen's Houthis join the Iran conflict, double confirmation. Launch missiles at Israel. So it looks like they're trying to ramp this thing up into a larger war. How does this end, though? I don't understand. It doesn't look like it's going to end anyway soon. I don't see how Trump can walk out of Iran in a couple of weeks and say, we won this thing, it's over. The regime has to be removed somehow. You have to show everybody that they're removed. They're putting 12 and 13-year-olds in the street now with guns over there and stuff. They're doing all kinds of crazy shit. New York City credit downgrade under Mamdani could cost more than $14 billion. So our credit rating is about to get downgraded under this guy. It's so bad. Which is going to really hurt anybody. Nobody's going to want to buy city bonds, right, anymore, and stuff like that. No. Why would you? Your credit rating just got downgraded. We're leaking money like a sieve, and they can't. In one of the richest cities with the most money in the world, they can't balance the budget. Mayor Mamdani's budget mess is creating chaos in the New York City bond market. Yep. He's creating chaos in the whole city. He doesn't know how to run the city. It's already become glaringly apparent that he doesn't know. He doesn't know how to balance a budget. Secret Service banned Tiger Woods from driving Trump's grandkids around. It emerges. He's not letting the granddaughter Kai go with him, right? This guy's a menace on the road. He's known to pass out at the wheel and get in car accidents. Maybe this guy should have his license revoked. He wouldn't give a urine sample because he was high on something, right? He was looking at him in the cop car on the way to the station. You could see him. He's almost passed out the whole way there. He can barely keep his eyes open. He's probably still taking Ambien, is my guess. And the problem with Ambien is that, you can take an Ambien, go to sleep, wake up the next day, and you're still under the influence of Ambien for a time. And so if you go hop in your car at 8:30 in the morning, you're going to play, you have a 9 o'clock tea time, whatever, you could still be driving under the influence of Ambien and whatever else you're taking. So if you're taking a pain med pill on top of that, and you're, with your coffee because you're in a lot of pain over all the surgeries you've had, and I'm sure he is. He's living in a humid state too, which is really bad for, humidity is not your friend when you break things. Trust me. It is a bastard. It hurts. It makes you hurt more usually when you have broken arms and legs and bones that broke and healed. The humidity is not your friend. So, he's probably living in a ton of pain. I'd said that years ago when I was watching the way he swung. I said, this guy's going to have huge problems, back problems and stuff later in his life the way he plays. And I was right. Because he's swinging so fucking hard that your back muscles aren't made to swing that way, right? It's not meant to. It's not great. Golf is really bad, really, for your whole upper body. It messes up your ab muscles, and everything gets all stretched all in weird directions and things, right? It's a great sport. It's fun to play, but can also drive you almost to the edge of insanity too. It's one of those sports where, like, you hit a great shot and you get hooked, and then you play a bunch of bad rounds and you're like, you know what? I'm sick of this fucking shit. I hate this sport. It's one of those type of sports. Woman visiting ER for back pain shocked after doctor suggests euthanasia. Hey, how about we put you to death? Your back's hurting? No problem. We'll just put you down. And the woman's like, are you insane? That never crossed my mind. I'm having some back problems. I'm having pain in my back, and I want you to find out what's wrong with me. Hey, how about we put you to death? Is that okay? You're old enough. Why don't we just put you down? Well, why would you want to kill all your old people for? Well, because then we don't got to take care of you. We don't got to give you your Social Security anymore. Well, if they have that in Canada, I think they do. Some kind of, maybe your pension, right? Whatever. The less people we got to pay out Social Security to, the better, right? We hope you actually die before you ever get it. We hope you die around 65. That's what these people are hoping, who run things. They issue bonds against your strawman name your whole life. They make profit off of you your whole life. Guaranteed money off those 30-year bonds against your name. Guaranteed money all through your life. And then when you're not of service or use anymore, they throw you away and they kill you. They want you to die before you get... They don't want you living to 85, 90. No. I would rather put you down. How about we just put you to sleep? I thought the doctor was supposed to do no harm was the Hippocratic Oath, right? Wasn't that part of it? Do no harm? Don't hurt anybody, right? Well, how can the doctor's first, hey doc, what should I do about my back pain? Well, how about kill yourself? Thanks, doc. How much did that cost? That's $400. Thanks. $200 for the walk-in plus another $2 to tell you to kill yourself. Thanks, doc. Appreciate you. That just shows you right there that the whole medical practice is a bunch of bullshit, right? Nepal's former prime minister has been arrested over protest crackdowns. That's a big deal. Another prime minister arrested. That's a country that's taking care of its business. We're not doing that here. Why hasn't Biden been arrested, or Obama? He's the one that gave Iran all the money. Why hasn't he been arrested? You notice that all the people talking about underground dumbs and warfare, you never hear anything about that. You never see the result of it. How can that all be true? I think that's starting to be shown to be not true. You would have seen some people coming out of the dumbs by now. Where did all the children that allegedly came from in New York, remember when they had the Mercy ship, that they allegedly put all those kids on the ship and then they had to be well, where'd they go? Aren't they all healed up by now? That was years ago. Where'd they all go? Where's the kids that you said got pulled out? There never were any kids. Down there is my guess. Right? Why didn't Trump automatically say, hey, there's a whole war going on underground. You can't see. Check this out. I would have told you that the first week if I was, in the real president. I would have said, hey, look at all this shit I just found. There's med beds. Military's had them for 50 years. But you know that they aren't using them. If they did, then some of these people would still be alive instead of they've died. But then some of them are staying alive too long that something's happening to them. Right? How can Waters be running again? She's 85 now. She's going to do another 4 years? How do you know she's going to live to 90? They don't know that. These people seem to go into like the pocket universe where you don't age for a while and then they come back, right? Where's Marilyn Manson? Anybody seen him? Right? Remember, it looked like Jim Carrey just got replaced with his clone or whatever, something different. Remember when Tom Cruise came back and he looked like he had the chipmunk face and everyone's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why do you look all stupid like that? And they said, oh, he put filler in his face and then it sinks in a while. Makes him keep that youthful look. Security scare prompts ground stop at Palm Beach Airport while Trump's Air Force One's out on the tarmac. There's all kinds of shit going on. A couple of people threatened Trump's life again, shit like that. We're seeing two different Trumps still walking around. Now I saw the white-haired one a couple more times. Crimson-clad clown flings shredded Quran at New York City mosque and smears feces on the building. That's the first time I've heard of anybody doing anything against a mosque. Anywhere, really. That happened here in New York City, by the way. So there's starting to become an anti-Islamic feeling in New York where there's always been that way. But they're ramping that up, right? I mean, when you have a bunch of Muslims go in Times Square and you pretend like you're taking over New York, a lot of New Yorkers don't like that. And you don't have the numbers here. Trust me, you don't. And they know they don't. What they should be doing is deporting a lot of these people who are here, like Mahmoud Khalil and everybody he's fucking working with. Because that guy's a problem. He's not just some dude that they were using to ferry illegal aliens between cities. He's a much bigger person than that, obviously. The question is, why was he doing that? And what if those guys each had swallowed maybe 30 bundles of heroin in their stomachs, right? And then they go, who knows, right? They could be moving drugs like that too, and you never know it. Yeah, you can pull them over. There's nothing in the van. It's in everybody's stomach, and they'll get it later, right? That's how they're moving drugs into the country too. I mean, JFK captures some people, but you can't x-ray everybody's stomach coming through, right? Who comes in. LA claims it's handled massive RV homeless encampment. Neighbors are furious. So LA is just destroyed, man. I feel so bad for the people that live there. It's way worse than New York, I've heard, in terms of like homeless encampments. And it's obviously LA is a much more spread out city than New York is. It's not sort of on a grid system that's a tight grid system like New York is. And parts of LA are walkable, but most of it's not, right? And so it's much more spread out, and therefore it's harder to see the issue, right? Whereas in New York, like if you have a homeless encampment, it's on one block, everyone's going to know about it real quick because there's all kinds of people on that block, right? You could have one on a square block of New York. A lot of people live. You don't realize it, right? But a lot of people live in that square block in those different buildings. So, did you hear about Trump's presidential library? It's going to be a high rise in Miami. You know how much that's going to cost? Why do you need a high-rise 30-story Trump building or whatever to be your presidential library? Well, isn't a library supposed to be on one level or 2 or 3 floors maybe? Four is a lot for a library, right? Most libraries are like a ranch style. If you go to like smaller towns, it's a ranch style building, right? It's not multiple levels, it's one floor. Nope, not this guy's. Or Obama's is like some, something from like the Star Wars, right? Some Star Wars building, it looks like. They never handled the RV. There's other RV encampments. There's also homeless on blocks all over the place. Venice still has a big homeless problem right near the beach. I'm reading about. You didn't clean. You got most of the guys off the beach, but they're still there, right? They just go in a block or two. It's the same thing that happens in Florida with homeless. I've been down to Florida. Like if you go to South Beach, right? It's all nice where the restaurants are, like on the beach, but you go a couple blocks in, you'll see homeless guys around. They'll be drinking, doing shit. It's a great spot to be homeless, and there's free. You can shower over at the beach for free sometimes. Some of those spots, and the public beach has showers, I think. It's warm year round. Zelensky takes surprise trip to the United Arab Emirates and Qatar to solidify defense and protection agreement. How is it possible this war is not over? All right, this whole thing is like a bunch of bullshit you're watching, and it never ends. The other thing I'm seeing people doing for years now is they keep doing certain things to agitate the public, right? Whether it's like this attack on the mosque is one, right? That's just one. They've been doing it with using Muslims the most to do stuff, right? They're coming into different countries and then attacking certain groups of people. They're attacking young women sometimes, right? They're molesting them. And in England, it's getting to the point where there's groups of men that are going out and finding these guys themselves because the government won't do it. And then the government has no choice but to act when there's overwhelming evidence. So these grooming gangs really do exist. And, you know, people like Tony Robinson and others are pointing that out, you know. I mean, he's risked his life to point it out. That guy's a hero. That guy should be a national hero in Great Britain. Tony Robinson, I think is his name, right? Tommy Morrison Robinson. I think his name's Tommy Robinson. He's for years been fighting. He's been thrown in jail over this for nothing, right? Streets of Sana'a, Yemen, packed with thousands of Houthis in support of Iran. There's a lot of people saying, well, this is all foretold, right? It's you know, Iran versus Israel, and this was foretold by some people. Well, maybe. If you're following a script, it's been foretold. It's the end of the Piscean age. This age is over. It doesn't matter what these people do. They can't stay around much longer because the Earth as its own entity is raising vibration and rising back up. It's done with 3D. It's experienced duality, all that it needs to. And so has humanity. That's why this place is here. It's a dualistic, inverted nightmare, is what I think of it as. Where nothing really makes sense because everything's inverted and it's upside down, so nothing makes sense. It's like, remember when Superman had like the opposite of Superman, right? It was the same thing. It's like each thing here has to have its opposite, which doesn't make sense, right? Why should good be able to only survive if evil can survive? Good should be able to survive on its own without evil. But not here, it doesn't. Ilhan Omar's connection to genocide in Somaliland. Her father did a lot of dirt over there, no question. And she came over with some of the money that he had and connections. And she was put into parts of, you know, a lot of Muslims were inserted into Michigan for a reason, and you can see what that reason was under Obama. Look what has happened to it now. If you don't do something right now about Dearborn and these kinds of places, I'm talking mass deportation of Muslims in this country, not only in Dearborn but in New York City and others, you're going to be in for a huge problem. And I think countries like Germany, countries like Sweden, countries like Norway are slowly coming to that also realization, although Germany's probably leading the pack because Germany took in the most, and they were the first really to start doing it under Merkel, if you remember. Who some say is the granddaughter of Hitler. I don't know. That's never been substantiated. Hundreds of protesters swarm a proposed New York City men's homeless shelter site and physically block the truck. This is on, I believe it's in Staten Island. Who was, of course, that borough was the least, probably the one borough that was the least supportive of Mamdani. So where does he want to put the homeless shelter? Let's put it in these people's backyard and fuck them over, right? And get them all pissed off. Why not? They don't vote for me anyway. That's exactly what he's doing. And that's not what you're supposed to do as an elected official, right? You're supposed to put a homeless shelter not in the middle of a residential neighborhood where there's children. That's not a smart play. It's like the same thing that they were doing in New York. Hey, let's put a homeless shelter in some of the most expensive neighborhoods in the Upper West Side. Well, what is that going to do to your property value? It's going to make it go down. Why? because I live right next to a homeless shelter where there's bums hanging out. People that stink, that smell, that they're doing drugs, that are allowed to just hang out on the sidewalk. You want that outside your $1 million condo? I don't think so. You'll spend money somewhere else to make sure that's not your area, right? Some people will pay extra to make sure it's not there. Right? That's why people spend the money that they spend. They don't want to be around certain people. They want to be around their people, right? That's why people will spend a lot of money to go live in certain parts of the country where they know those people that they don't want to be around are not around. If you ever travel cross country in the United States, you'll realize that the majority of the areas in between the two coasts are majority white. Although in some places that's changing. I'm not talking the major cities. I'm talking about when you get outside the major cities, right? The breadbasket, the middle of the country, very white. There's almost no people of color anywhere in some of those states at all. Like Nebraska, like Missouri, like Kansas, like others. Yeah, there's some people of color there because they've been introduced in there. But historically, no. Very, very little. And so they might be concentrated more in the cities where people tend to dwell more. But once you leave those cities, most of those areas are not what you think they are. And they don't take kindly when they are invaded by large groups, right? That's what they were trying to do. Send large groups of, people of color into towns that are very, very white. Why? Well, it's going to piss you off, isn't it? You got some Haitian guy eating the ducks out of your park pond, right? Killing all the wildlife, killing your dog or whatever to eat it because they don't have any food. That shit was happening. And you have no recourse. What are you going to do? Shoot the guy? Trump says deal will probably be reached soon or else he'll blow up Iran. It's like, hey, you want to make a deal? No? Okay, well, how about if I blow you up? You want to do a deal now? Oh, you do? Oh, great. But I got to threaten to kill you first to do the deal, right? That's not really doing a deal. That's doing a deal under threat of death. Right? That's doing a deal with a gun at your head. But the other side's saying they aren't even talking to you. So what's actually going on? Who is Trump actually talking to? Is he talking to some other people that are actually running it that aren't the people that we think they are? I don't know. It doesn't appear that they're saying they're not talking to Trump, so I don't know who he's talking to. Teacher of the Year finalist refused to cut ties with students she had sex with even after being charged. She's pretty stupid. I wrote, this is another female pedophile. There's many, many female pedophiles, way more than you ever thought, right? If you're going back like 15 years and you started talking, hey, did you know there's female pedophile teachers? What are you talking about? I've never heard of that. Like there was some rare cases, like remember the one, Mary J. Letourneau, I think was her name. That woman, she had sex with the student and they had a baby together. That was like in the 90s, I think. But it was like, it was rare. Even hearing about a male teacher, 20, 30 years ago was rare. Now it's every other day. Now it's every week there's another pedophile female or male teacher. Who's vetting these people? How are you not finding out they're pedophiles? Trump says he could take the oil in Iran as he mulls over seizing Karg Island. He could take that. It seems like the Iranians are running out of missiles too, right? They made a whole bunch, but they blew their wad. Now what are they going to do? You can't make any more. We've blown up a lot of your munitions plants. Right? It doesn't seem like they're bombing with the regularity that they were earlier on this thing. And they didn't have nearly the weapons that they thought. Do they maybe have a lot more stuff that they're not using? We don't know. Maybe. It doesn't appear that they do, though. What they do have is a huge army that they still have that appears to be still under the control of the mullahs. So we'll have to keep an eye on Iran and see what happens. We don't know how deconstituted they are in terms of how much of the leadership has he gone through. It seems like they've gone through quite a bit of their leadership, right? And if the son is gay and he's possibly injured, he's not going to have the same respect as the other mullahs had. Therefore, he won't be respected by the military as much, and they might not listen to him. We also don't know how many people have fled the country who are like in the government in the top levels, right? They may have, some of them may have fled to Iran and places like that. The paranoid reason why Tiger Woods won't hire a driver despite history of car crashes. Yeah, he says he doesn't want someone knowing where he goes. Well, where are you going? That's so secretive. A crack house or something? That's what doesn't make sense. Like, if you're a drug addict, you can get people to get you your drugs for you. They'll gladly do it if you pay them enough. They'll bring it right to your fucking house. Right? If you pay him enough. And he's got all kinds of money. So why are you out there, like, doing some sketchy shit in your car, not knowing where you want people, not knowing where, you know, you don't want anyone knowing where you're going. What are you doing? Cruising prostitutes in the street or something? Like, I don't get it. Are you going on, like, maybe he's more of a drug addict than we think. That's what when I look at Tiger Woods, that's what I feel. Like, he's somebody that's, like, he's suffering. You can see it in his eyes. He's sad. He's not happy, right? And you'd think, why wouldn't you be? You got everything. You got 2 kids that love you. You got, you know, you're a sports legend in golf. I mean, even if you never played another tournament, you're still going to be one of the greatest that ever played the game. But he never broke the record. He's one major away. He never got Nicklaus's record. He just tied it, I think, right? I wrote, what the fuck is this guy doing, Trump? Why would you put a massive military complex under a ballroom? That's what they realized they were doing, right? He's not just building the ballroom. He's building a massive military complex underneath the ballroom. And everyone's like, why do you need that for? And the Pentagon itself is a massive military complex already. Why do you need a separate military complex? What is it going to be for the safety of the president? Is it like a bunker for the president? Is it? I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's necessary. I mean, the bunker itself. The ballroom itself doesn't seem necessary. But then there was people saying, well, there's something evil under the White House that they would. Okay, well, then get rid of that and destroy that. That doesn't mean you need to build a massive military base underneath a ballroom, which doesn't make any sense. And now everyone's going to know that it's there. You know, if you're building a secretive military complex, the point is it's supposed to be secret. People aren't supposed to know it's there then, right? Trump threatens Iran's water supply in astonishing war crime escalation as defiant Tehran tears up nuclear treaty. I don't think he can do what he's doing. He's threatening a sovereign nation that did nothing to start a war with us, and he's already invaded that country, bombed it, killed some of its leaders, assassinated its leadership without declaring war, and now is threatening to destroy its power infrastructure and its water, which both of those things I believe are illegal to do. The water I know is illegal, right? That would be a war crime if you were to knowingly cut off their water supply. You would be sentencing millions of people to a slow death, is what you'd be doing by doing that, right? Because most of the people in Iran can't leave the country. They're not allowed to, and if there's no water, you only got about a week or less, right, before things get real nasty. Really just 3 or 4 days without water and things will get real bad. You can only live about 3 days without water before you are in serious risk of death and dehydration, right? Even 2 days is hard. Try going a full day without drinking any water or any liquid of any kind. It's not easy. Even in a not dry climate, and Iran is a fairly dry place, so you're going to feel it without water. The water supply would run out real quick, and that's a war. You can't do that. That's some Genghis Khan type shit. Trump says he'll close historic gravel border road linking Montana to Alberta with neighbors who've been friends for generations set to be torn apart. Well, we got to stop all these roads leading into the country. They have to be more highly patrolled. This is a gravel road where they're probably moving drugs and all kinds of stuff to for years. I think it's a 9-mile long gravel road that runs between Alberta and Montana. So it's a way across. It's a cross-border problem, right? Why'd you wait so long to do this? I mean, his whole first 4 years, this is all wide open. All this stuff was wide open. Nobody's even talking about it. There's parts of the border in Mexico there is no border still. There's just, you can walk right over, right? You can drive right over. So if that's not all fixed by now, then we have a problem. What about the border construction? You're not hearing anything about wall construction anymore. Is he still building the wall? It doesn't appear he is. Is it done yet? Why not? If it isn't done, why not? Well, he's got you involved in another war. We can't afford to do all these things at once. We don't have all the money. We're actually broke, right? Woman spends 5 months in jail after facial recognition connects her to crimes in North Dakota, a state she never visited. So you can see that facial recognition is not perfect. They want to get your face in a database, though, now, for however fast they can do it, right? But you notice that there's a lot of people that look like a lot of other people, right, in this country and world. So it's facial recognition is not a perfect science. It works with biometrics and things like that can sometimes, right? Your face changes over time too. I mean, you ever look at your old driver's license pictures, right? After a while, they tell you got to take a new pic. You don't look like that anymore. I know some people that have their old, like a really old license pic still, and I'm like, damn, that doesn't even look like you anymore. If a cop uses that, try to ID you, they're not going to be able to say that's you. You don't even look like that. You were like 28 years old there, now you're like 55. Amateur sleuth finds lost city with giant pyramid that sends compasses into a frenzy. This kid found something off the coast of Louisiana that they're now saying could be like an old, who knows, maybe Atlantis or something, right? Something that sank that had a pyramid on it. So there was all kinds of other places, like Antarctica at one time was all lush, right, at one point. It wasn't covered in ice. It didn't flash freeze. How did it freeze so quick? And why did it freeze? Because it's in a part of the world where you think, well, maybe, should it be that cold there? I don't know. There's steam vents, parts of Antarctica that there's no snow, right? Which means that there's parts underneath that are probably heated by vents and warm water vents and stuff where there could be life underneath the ice. Scott Jennings destroyed the No Kings rallies and CNN wasn't happy about it. Yeah, he made an interesting comment. He said if there really was a king, you wouldn't be able to protest. You'd be killed for protesting. You'd be hung. If there was a real king and they didn't want you to protest the king, most times back in the day, you didn't protest the king if you were the serfs. Why? You get killed. And they take all your land away from you if you had land, and your family would be fucked. They'd be homeless with nobody to provide for them anymore, and you'd be screwed. So you made sure you kept your fucking mouth shut. And when the king wanted that tax, you made sure you paid it quick, right? Because if you didn't, he'd take everything you had away. And you'd be fucked. You don't want to be traveling around homeless in the woods in some of these lands back in the day. There'd be robbers that would take everything you had and kill your wife and kill you and take your wife and kids away and rape them. That was reality back then. That's why people had to go and try to live in places where, that were defended forts and things of that nature, where the king, you were under some kind of protection, right? Otherwise, there were bandits and other things. Who knows what happened to you on those roads? There was no cops patrolling back then. You were on your own once you left these fortresses and these cities and these small towns, right? Back in the day, you couldn't have a No Kings rally. You'd be freaking struck down right in the spot. The king could tell his soldiers, hey, grab that guy and chop his head off right here, right now, so everybody could see it. That's the end of that protest real quick. What are you talking about protesting? You're not protesting nothing. Too bad Tiger Woods can't drive a car as well as you can a golf ball. PJ Media. Yeah, it's too bad, right? Somehow you just can't seem to just go the regular speed that everyone else goes. You got to try to jack around somebody and pass a car on a 2-lane road. Well, if you're going to do that, make sure you know what you're doing and you pass them properly. It's always dangerous to pass on a 2-lane road, right? Unless you got a long straight stretch where you can see no one's coming. This $1 trillion firm wants out of Mamdani's New York. So there's different firms are saying, hey, maybe we should leave. The taxes are going up. We could have it'll be more economical for us to go to Florida now or Texas, where the tax liabilities for our company are going to be much less. We're saving millions per year. It makes it worth the move, right? Sure, I want to be in New York, but it's costing me too much. My bottom line is I need to make profit from my. If I'm a corporation, my profit, the people that hold the shares in the corporation, I have to make them a profit. That's my main goal. I can't do that in New York anymore. The latest No Kings protest is the sound of a tired old thing trying not to die. Federalist. I wrote, I agree, the numbers are low for these protests for the most part, and I look at the makeup of the crowds too, and I don't see a large multi-ethnic bloc behind these protests. It's mostly old white liberals and those that they can pay to attend these rallies. Yeah, there's some people of color in there sprinkled, but it's not like in 2002 and 3 when I was at the anti-war Iraq protests in New York. That was about 500,000 people at one of those that I was at, and that's a whole different story, right? When you see that many people in the street saying we don't want to go to war with Iraq, and of course we ended up going to a war with Iraq anyway, and Afghanistan, you realize that none of these things ever do anything to create change. None of these protests have ever created much change. In some small instances, sustained protest has made change, like in Gandhi's case and other things, but it takes such an effort that almost no people are willing to really do it, right? If people wanted all these illegal aliens out of New York, they could have done it, right? They could have had it done, but they'd had to make their presence known in massive protests that would go around these hotels and remove the people by force if necessary, right? Where the cops couldn't control it. But you're not seeing that happen because most people don't give a shit. They're just living in their own little bubble, and if it doesn't really affect them, they don't really care. Until one of the homeless shelters is going to move into the neighborhood where you live, or that all of a sudden now there's a homeless migrant shelter that's going to come into your neighborhood. Then it becomes your problem. And so the people that want to put their head in the sand, you can't do that anymore. You really never could. You shouldn't have ever done it. It's how we got into this problem that we're in now. So the No Kings protests to me look like old, tired white liberals and communists, failed communists, who are trying to get one last shot at it, right? And they figure that they got Mamdani in by cheating, because Mamdani was not elected in a fair election. I'm almost certain of that at this point. And nobody's answered my question or even asked it, which is how did only 2 million people vote in that election? Where's the other 6 million votes? Why isn't anybody asking that question? Why isn't somebody asking Mamdani that question, or the people who do the voting in New York? Where did all the votes go? How did only 2 million plus people vote? Why did 6 million not? What does that say about you who run the process here? Rubio signals possible cracks forming inside the Iran regime amid U.S. pressures. Let's hope so. This thing's going. We don't want to put ground troops in there. And what are you really doing in there looking for? Is it just that they have oil? Cuba gets a little relief, sort of, maybe, but what does it mean? New York got heavily chemtrailed the other day on the 30th of March. That's another thing, I keep bringing up. If Trump is the one, right? If Trump is the savior, why are you still being chemtrailed? We already have Kennedy was asked the question in a forum, in a public forum, and he said that he thought it was DARPA. They were working on it, and then nothing happened. They're still doing it, and it's not DARPA. It's the Air Force too. It's got to be. We've seen the Air Force patch. There's a patch for these guys have. Death from above. It's partially the Air Force and it's partially DARPA, but whoever it is, you're not stopping it, is my point. We were chemtrailed all through your first term, and we're still being chemtrailed now. Treasury Department to reward fraud whistleblowers with up to 30% of fines. The Internal Revenue Service runs a similar program. Speaking of Internal Revenue Service, what a nightmare doing my taxes this year for some reason. I can't seem to get it done online. The site's not letting me do it. But of course, when I tried to pay what I owed on my taxes from my debit card, it took the money out of my account and I never got to finish, and it won't let me finish it. So now I'm stuck. I don't even know how to get my money back. I'm going to try to self-file, paper file, and get my money back from these people. Good luck, right? I thought the IRS was supposed to be abolished by now. Why are we still paying taxes in Trump's second term? Shouldn't you have abolished this stuff the first term? And why didn't the market crash and all these things people said were going to happen? Why was gold and silver all through your first term massively kept down, and the price was messed with and manipulated, and you did nothing to defend gold and silver in this country the whole time? The buried second Sphinx tearing researchers apart as scientists turn on each other over Giza bombshell. So there's another Sphinx. Why is it buried, though? Was it maybe once not buried? The president's spokeswoman says military will operate within the law after Trump's Iran threat. So they had to make a correction real quick, right? You can't go around saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to make sure I'm going to bomb your water purification plants in your country. You're going to freaking die." Unless your country opens up the Straits of Hormuz to all vessels right away. You can't negotiate at the point of a gun. I mean, you can, but it's not a fair negotiation. Because if you put a gun to my head, I'm probably going to do what you asked me to do, unless I just don't care anymore and I want to get killed. If I know you're going to pull the trigger, I'm going to probably do what you want, right? I don't want to die. President Sheinbaum defends Mexico's right to send oil to Cuba. Well, we're embargoing Cuba right now, so if you try to do that. But it shows there's this network here that's connected to Cuba that's been helping Cuba for a long time, right? Venezuela's been helping Cuba. Russia's been helping Cuba since the Bay of Pigs incident, right? Even before. Abu Bakr Ali is sentenced to just 1 year in jail for the $3 million part in Minnesota Feeding Our Future fraud scheme. In total, Youth Inventors Lab fraudulently received over $3 million in reimbursements from Feeding Our Future. I wrote, that's nothing in terms of a sentence. 1 year for that much fraud and crime? It's amazing. The guy will be out in 6 months. And he's still got the money somewhere hidden if he's smart. Mamdani gives free infant child care only to New York City government workers. Mamdani announced the program on Monday. So what about everybody else? So if nobody else gets free child care, just the government workers? Well, that's great for them, and I think they deserve it. But I thought you were going to give free child care to everybody. But you realize, and you can't afford to do that, it's just too expensive. I saw this woman go to a doctor in China. Some white woman went to the doctor in China. It took her 15 minutes. She got her prescription, everything she needed, had it paid for. Cost her like $20, like almost nothing. Saw a doctor within a half hour. No wait time. How come a country that has way more people that has triple the population almost that we have can do it that well, and you can't do that here? And you got to make an appointment with the doctor ahead of time. For instance, I don't have a doctor right now. And I wanted to go see an ear, nose, and throat doctor for something that's bugging me a little bit with my ears. And I thought, okay, I can just go into this guy and, yeah, he'll charge me something to walk in, but it won't be too bad. No, it's $200 just to have the guy examine you now with no insurance. So it's just $200 just to walk in. Now, if he tells you need to do this and that, that's more, that's going to add on. So that's crazy. I shouldn't have to spend that much money just to see a doctor. It shouldn't cost that much. If you don't have insurance, it could be a lot more, right? Let's say you get some bad dental problems and you don't have any dental insurance, which most people don't. You're in trouble. Root canals in this country can cost well over $1,500, $2,000 for one root canal. If you're talking about crown post, you need a new tooth and a crown on top. That's $3,000-$4,000. One tooth. It shouldn't be like that. Now they're saying that the bullet that was used to kill Charlie Kirk did not match the rifle allegedly used. Well, Yeah, because I don't think that's the kid that killed him, right? It didn't appear that that kid took that shot. It didn't work out that the angle was right. Like I said before, I don't think he's dead. I think that whole thing was CGI'd. If a round that large was to go through your throat, it would rip out a huge part of your throat would be gaping open, right? You'd be stuff everywhere. Your head might even come off. That's a huge round. It's not like a 20, like a 5.56 round. It's a 7.62 millimeter shell, right? That's a big round. My instant thought was that was faked, and that he's in the pocket universe hiding now, wherever that is. Or he's just hiding somewhere with a mask or whatever, right? He could be anything. You can go, you don't even have to hide anymore. They got these silicone masks. You can just put that on and walk around, man. Get some plastic surgery and walk around. You won't even know it's him. So Mamdani gives free infant and child care only to government workers. Nobody else gets it. Germany's Merz says 80% of Syrian refugees to return home in 3 years. I said, why wait that long? How about now? What if they start having children there? What are you going to do then? Say they're not national citizens of Germany and they have to leave? You should do it now. 3 years is a long time to wait. Trump unveils renderings for soaring Miami skyscraper that will serve as his presidential library. That's way bigger than Obama's. This thing's going to cost, they're saying, $1 billion, which Obama's is already over $1 billion, I think, or close to it. Massive oil tanker struck by Iranian drone near the Strait of Hormuz as U.S. unleashes 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs on ammunition depot. So it appeared that we blew up an ammunition depot in Iran with the large bunker buster bombs, which are 2,000-pound bombs. I think we also have, they go up to 5,000-pound bombs. I think we also have 5,000-pound bombs. Then you start getting into like daisy cutter type stuff where it's, you want everything in a square mile dead. Okay, you drop a daisy cutter on that area and it just kills everything in that square miles dead. Oxygen just gets sucked out of the whole area. It blows everything up. The other day, silver was up $4.40 to went back up to 75. Gold is up $123. Today the gold markets are closed, but what did they settle at? 73 something was silver? Yeah, silver was at 73.79. Gold was at 46.93. Down 81 the other day, but the other day though, yesterday, silver had started the day off down $4. Was it like 68, 69 range? So it pared all those losses back and ended up flat on the day, which I thought was a big positive because it started the day down $4, which was the overnight session. Trump says birthright citizenship was meant for the babies of slaves, not rich people from China. He is right about that part of it. It really wasn't meant for people now to come and, these mothers are coming. You don't even have to go into the United States proper anymore. You can go to one of these countries like Guam and do it. Have a baby there and then it's a U.S. citizen or whatever. Mariana Islands, one of those places. A lot of them are coming right to either New York or California and then coming to the birth hotels here. And it's a whole business in China. There's dozens of agencies that specialize in doing it. It should be illegal. It should be shut down. They need to go into Chinatown in a big, big way in New York and other Muslim enclaves and remove a lot of people who just should not be here, period. And the city would be such a better place for it. But they're not doing it. Mamdani panic leaves wealthy New York City parents rushing to get kids into top British boarding schools. So you got people like leaving the whole country right now. Just like, well, why would you want to go to Britain? It's even worse. Great Britain's even worse. There's more Muslims over there. Good luck with that. Ex-NYPD sergeant arrested in connection to federal corruption probe over migrant shelter contracts. You want to know a state that has almost no Muslims? Go to Alabama, Mississippi. Those states have the least amount of Muslims in them. Probably, I don't know about Montana anymore. It's probably some there. But states like that, Deep South. Trump threatens to disrupt Congress's spring break with a rare special session to end record-breaking DHS shutdown. Here's an opinion piece. China's abuse makes birthright citizenship a life or death choice for America. It's true. We need to get rid of millions of Chinese that are here illegally through this birthright citizenship. And it's been going on for decades. It's not just like it's happened the last few years. This was going on in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. I'm not sure about the 50s and 60s so much. It was less then, I think. But it's really been something more of like, 90s going forward. Deputies, Tiger Woods was sweating profusely possessed pills after crash. Well, yeah, when you're a pill popper like that, you're like, need your next shit, yeah, you start sweating like crazy. Plus, it's Florida, it's humid as fuck. It's starting to get more humid now in Florida this time of year. It starts to ramp up that humidity level, that heat, right? By June, July, you're dying down there. You don't want to be down there in July and August, right? I remember walking down there once. I was visiting in like late August, and I was walking along South Beach looking for a restaurant wearing like a sort of dark green shirt, and I was sweating so much that like all the salt was like sucked out of my body. So I had like salt stains all over my shirt. I didn't realize. I was like, oh my gosh, I look like a wreck out here. I'm sweating my ass off. It's freaking humid as hell down here. Tiger Woods is hooked on those pain meds in a big fucking way. Because it's easy to drive in Florida, man. It's one of the easiest states I've ever driven in fact. Especially locally, like you're not driving that fast most places, right? You're going like 35. Unless you're on the I-95, you're not going very fast in Florida. But the problem in Florida is there's a lot of young people driving and a lot of old people. And that's not a good mix. And to throw a guy like Tiger in who's a madman on pain meds driving around, you probably shouldn't be driving on pain meds at all. So Ari had a couple of new shows. I was checking out Ari at Home's Genre Fuse IRL stream, sponsored by Welch's for him. That's good that he's getting some streams sponsored, man. He deserves it. The guy's only doing this stream and he only makes like $200 if he gets enough donations. He deserves way more. If you think about what this guy's doing, he's putting out sometimes a whole album of content in like 3 hours' time. He's making 3, 4, 6 songs, 7 songs sometimes, multiple rap songs. Most people to put an album out, it takes them months or years to do. This guy could put an album out in a day. That's how talented he is. He has an endless amount of beats in his head. He's the beat master supreme. Did you see? Another big revelation was that Kristi Noem's husband is a cross-dresser. You have pictures of him with the big boobs on, right? With those fake breast thing. You could wear like a shirt underneath that makes you look like you have breasts. There's her husband with his fake boobies. With his fake booby shirt. So that's why she's messing around with Lewandowski, because I couldn't understand it. Like, what the hell is, like, why are you with Lewandowski for? He's, like, not even good looking. Well, my husband's wearing this, so I gotta do something. Why is she hanging around with Lewandowski, though? So her husband's a cross-dresser. She lost her job. Trump ordered to stop construction on his glitzy White House ballroom. So they stopped the White House ballroom again. Trump said something funny, actually. He said, they're calling me a king. I can't even get a ballroom approved. This guy can't even build a fucking ballroom without these people trying to stop it, right? Here's an opinion piece. New York City will always be the greatest, but scaffolding is a misery that nails me down. Yeah, it really does take away from the city, and it's not necessary. They claim, a brick fell out of the building and hit this woman in the head, so therefore we have to put scaffolds on. No, the scaffolding, your buildings should be pointed every 2 to 3 years, whatever. You can put netting up that while you're doing that work that doesn't have to require a full scaffold be built. These scaffolds being built is a way for these illegal aliens to have work. And it's obvious and it should be stopped. And I've said that for a long time. We never had these scaffolds before 2022 or 3, I think, that I saw them start. I don't remember seeing them before 2020. Not in the numbers that I'm seeing them now. Now there's some blocks where there's one on each block. There's multiple ones on each block. Some of them are across the street from each other. It's just insane. Here's an opinion piece. This is a Democratic Party push to expel Jews from public life. Obviously there's a huge anti-Semitic part of the Democratic Party that surfaced that people didn't know existed. You thought, oh, well, Bernie, they love Bernie. No, they don't. They don't love Bernie. Most of the Democratic Party despises Bernie Sanders. He's always been an outlier. They don't like him. Part of the reason they don't is he's a Jew. Plenty of Jews in politics, though. Jews have been running New York City politics for my whole life. Chuck Schumer and what's the big fat bastard's name? Nadler. Nadler and Schumer have done more damage to New York City and their multiple decade runs than almost any other politician in the history of the state. Mayors come and go. These guys have been here 30 plus years. Schumer's been here hurting this country. That's just my opinion. Here's an opinion piece. Mamdani's blatant disregard for the middle class has put him at odds with black New Yorkers. Yeah. You raise taxes on the middle class. Who do you think you're hurting? You're not just hurting middle class whites. You're hurting middle class African Americans. You're hurting middle class Latinos, middle class Asians, middle class Indians, middle class Sikhs, middle class Muslims who've come to this country, worked very hard in some instances to save up enough to buy a house or a two-family house, to maybe buy a small building and refurbish it and do all the paperwork and things necessary. It's not easy, right? It's not easy to be a landlord in this place. It's not easy to be a homeowner in New York and New Jersey. We have very high property taxes in these two states, Connecticut as well. And if you start to raise the middle class tax, that's a guarantee you will not be reelected. There's no way. So I know already that Mamdani will never be reelected. I already can see it. I don't think he might not even last the 4 years. We'll see. The Seder that turned on Mamdani, so Mamdani was invited to a Seder and he was actually heckled at the Seder. He was not welcomed by all. Some people, somebody said shame. Shame on you showing your face here, but before, some of the stuff you're saying doesn't appear to be like you're a friend to the Jewish people. Why wouldn't you let a Holocaust survivor speak at the school? Instead, you force the students to look at your wife's artwork. I don't see why that would be something that students would want to look at. Your wife's not an artist that's sold artwork. She's just somebody that's drawing paintings. Trump declares job done, says U.S. forces to leave Iran in 2 to 3 weeks. It looks like it's over. So I wrote, has the regime been totally removed? It doesn't appear so, that they've been totally removed. How do we know that there's a new regime there? How do we know any of what you did really happened? Or were they just AI generated imagery? Is it war porn, right? Charlie Kirk bullet analysis finds no conclusive link to the rifle found near the scene, which means that the bullet did not come from that gun. There was another shooter there then, if he really got shot, which I don't think he did. I think the whole thing was AI generated because if you remember, there's 2 cameras, right, that they put behind Kirk for some reason, pointing at the crowd, which makes no sense. If you wanted to videotape the event, you could have videotaped it from a different angle, not from behind Kirk. Plus, there's a trap door under Kirk that leads to somewhere, which we don't know. Right? There's all these things, the people giving hand signals and shit. So, if he was shot from closer, somebody would have heard the rifle go off. You couldn't have shot him from closer because it's a long rifle. You need to do it, right? In other words, somebody probably shot him from further away, if anything, right? With a light rifle like that. Why would you need to be as close as the kid got and put himself in that much? It doesn't make any sense, right? I'm saying if you're thinking about shooting somebody with a long rifle with a scope, why would you risk being like 200 yards from the target when you could be 600 or 700 yards away with a better vantage point and a better chance of getting away, right? Because this guy had to go jump off the roof and there was people all around. He could have easily been caught, right? But he wasn't. Tyler Robinson's defense team may try to use the analysis to clear him of blame. I mean, if the bullet doesn't match his rifle, then how can you say that he fired that rifle shot into and killed Kirk? You can't, because it doesn't match. But then what was he doing there with the rifle? was he the plant guy? That he was the fall guy for it then, right? And there was another shooter, if there really was a shooter at all, which I don't think there was. So none of it really makes any sense, right? It's the same thing with when Trump got shot. You saw him pat his ear, right? That's how he cut his ear, with the razor blade in his hand. It's an old wrestling trick, dude. That's why, what's his name? The old wrestler Jesse the Body Ventura, that's why he said he doesn't believe it, because he knows that trick. He used to do it. Right? You'd knock him down, he'd go under the ring for a second, he'd come out and he's all bloody, right? Yeah, that's how Hulkster used to do that too. They'd have a razor blade, like in their little, somewhere hidden in their suit would be a razor blade. They'd take it out when it would come time for the cut scene. Iran blitzes Kuwait, Bahrain, and UAE and major Gulf attackers. Trump says U.S. will leave the war very soon. So, it seems like the war is over now, but how do we know you got everybody? King Charles will not meet survivors of Jeffrey Epstein when he jets to the U.S., but may one day. He said he's not going to meet anybody. He's not meeting Jeffrey's family, nobody. I wrote, of course he won't meet any of them. Are you surprised? I'm not. Judge blocks Trump administration from terminating Biden-granted parole status for up to 900,000 illegal aliens under federal law. DHS had full authority to revoke the parole, DHS said in response. So these judges just keep blocking everything Trump's trying to do. New Idaho law forces Boise mayor to remove pride flag from government building on Trans Day of Visibility. This is a symbol of who we are, and it's not political, it's not religious, it's not ideological. Yeah, it is political. It's not a symbol of who most of us are, and it has no business being on a government building. No flag should fly above or with alongside the American flag. Only flags can fly below that, but not with it. And that flag should not be alongside on any government building at all. I don't believe so. Nigerian Archbishop wants guns, diverges from Pope on use of force against Islamic terror. I mean, in some instances, if I have people killing the people of my country are being murdered by an outside force or some force that's gone rogue, what am I supposed to do? Pray that they go away? That's not going to help me, probably, right? I'm going to lose a lot of people. I need guns. I need guns to counteract guns. That's the only other way I could do it, right? Force counteracts force. Otherwise, I just get run over, right? President Trump should sue the Daily Beast for this disgustingly false headline. It was about one of the 13-year-olds that are women that accused him of alleged sexual assault. They're claiming that charge has been debunked. But there's two other charges. There's the infanticide charge from 1984, that the woman said that Trump and Epstein witnessed the infanticide of her child by her uncle. And there's the other male person that says that Trump that he was assaulted by Trump. And that he, in fact, shoved something inside Trump that hurt Trump, that Trump had to be medevaced out of the area for, which could be proven, I guess, if you look for the records, unless it was all covered up. Because the allegation from the young man that he was supposed to have sodomized Trump and instead pushed something inside of Trump, let's just say, that hurt him, that wasn't himself, obviously, not to get too graphic, but if that person's story is true, then there would be evidence of a life flight, of Trump being medevaced out, of a surgery being done on Trump, if that was in fact what happened. And we don't know that person's story is true, but he's come out and alleged that it is true. A young man has made an allegation that when he was a young man he was molested by Trump, and that because he hated Trump so much, what he was doing, that he did something back to Trump that hurt him, that would have left some kind of a record that it happened, because he was apparently medevaced from a location. We don't know if that's true. These are all allegations that we cannot substantiate, unfortunately. And that's part of the problem with a lot of this Epstein stuff keeps coming out, and then a lot of stuff is not coming out, and then something comes out and you're distracted by that for a while, but we never get to the real point of where people are actually going to jail for this shit. You notice that? A lot of people are getting old and dying and disappearing, and nobody's really going to jail. There's no people in Gitmo still, right? Your Grubhub courier might not actually work for Grubhub, so the company can avoid paying minimum wage. Yeah, there's so many people delivering food here illegally, it's insane. The only thing I can suggest is stop using Seamless, stop using Grubhub. I know it's almost impossible to do. They've set it up in a way now where you almost have to do it, right? I've actually called restaurants directly now and said, hey, can I get a delivery? And they say, no, you got to do Seamless. Sorry, we don't do that. You can't just call up here and get a delivery anymore, which is how everybody used to do it back in the day, right? You wanted a pizza? Yeah, you call the pizza parlor, your local place. Hey, Jimmy, how you doing? It's Ash. I need a pie. Yeah, let me give me 2 regular pies and whatever, right? Boom. Okay, yeah, it'll be about 25 minutes, 30 minutes, all right. And the guy would show up with your pizza. But the guy delivering the pizza was from the pizza place. He worked there. He got the tip. Not some guy from Grubhub who's here illegally riding around on a bike, electric bike, and using his friend's account so he doesn't even have to pay taxes on any of the money he makes. Shut down all these sites. Seamless, Grubhub, all that shit should be shut down. You're charging extra tip money, right? In other words, I'm tipping the driver already who's delivering through your service, but you're also charging me another fee, a service fee. So it's like I got to pay it twice to get my food. It doesn't make any sense. DHS spokeswoman out after 6 weeks. Zachariah had replaced Tricia McLaughlin, who left the post after a year. So nobody wants to be the spokesperson for this place. The DHS. And Bondi just got fired, right? That's the other big headline. Pam Bondi's fired. We heard that. She's not been forthright in releasing all the Epstein files. Why not? Well, remember, she's connected to Epstein from back in Florida. That's why she should have never been put in the first place. Supreme Court appears skeptical of Trump administration's argument to end birthright citizenship. I think they didn't end it, right? Birthright citizenship has been the rule for a very long time. Yeah, but that was meant for slaves, really. For the children of slaves, not for people from China who are coming in, using a birth hotel. Alabama TV news anchor quotes Muslim Brotherhood founder sparking backlash. Why is she still working? I have no idea. Florida Democratic Party vice chair found dead in home, husband arrested. The Democratic vice chair of the Florida Democratic Party was been found murdered. That's a pretty big story. Allegedly by her husband. Well, the husband's been arrested. New York City weighs renting out hidden Brooklyn Bridge rooms to combat budget deficit. The iconic bridge contains roughly 13,000 square feet of hidden space previously used for art shows, but unused since 2001. So the city is that broke that they're literally thinking about renting out parts of the inner parts of the Brooklyn Bridge, which is cool. I never saw the inner rooms of the Brooklyn Bridge. That must be kind of interesting. A lot of people died making the Brooklyn Bridge, right? They didn't know about the bends back then, which is what happens when if you go down in a scuba gear and you try to just come straight back up to the surface from like 60, 80 feet, you're going to get the bends. You'll die, right? If you're diving, you have to come up slowly to the surface so your body can reacclimate as you come up and you don't get bubbles in your bloodstream forming, right? That can give you the bends and you could die. A lot of people died making the Brooklyn Bridge because they were basically in a sealed caisson that was sunk to the bottom of the East River, where the men would then dig the foundation for the bridge out, right? And But of course, working in a sealed caisson back then, nobody knew what the bends was, and people were dying like crazy. Excuse me. HIV and AIDS cases rising in Chicago as immigration drives spike in Latino community. City officials have suggested that the increase among this racial group is due in part to immigration, including people who have not been tested. Well, you're bringing in all these people who you don't test for anything, and they're all from third world countries who are in bad shape, a lot of them. So you can assume that a lot of them are going to have some diseases. So you're just bringing in more disease into the country. Hundreds of companies provide birth tourism for foreign moms who want U.S. citizen babies. There's more than 500 firms in China alone that do this, that facilitate people coming from the Chinese Communist Party to give birth here in the U.S. This has to stop. It should have stopped 50 years ago. China should have to pay us huge amounts of reparations for doing this to us, too, because they're knowingly doing it. Right? They're knowingly... Think about what China's doing to us. They're knowingly pushing drugs into our country, like fentanyl and others. They're knowingly allowing this birth tourism and, in fact, encouraging it to happen, which is costing us billions and billions of dollars over time. And they're buying land near our military bases to spy on us. They're stealing our intellectual property. I mean, this is all things that you would think, why would you have any kind of relationship with a country that's doing this to you? You shouldn't. And for sure, I don't want millions of your people in my country if that's in fact what you're doing, because I'm sure some of those people are spies. White House address, Trump says Iran war goals are nearing completion. SCOTUS appears skeptical of Trump's case against birthright citizenship. And if you heard what Ketanji Jackson said, it sounded incredibly idiotic, the argument she was making. Talking about stealing somebody's wallet in Japan. You're using some pretty obscure sources to get to this concept, Justice Kagan told John Sauer. But so are you guys. I mean, what are you talking about? Jackson's bizarre comparison showed she is unfit to be on the bench and should have never been chosen. This woman is so obviously not fit to be... I don't know how this woman was chosen to be on the bench. She has no business being there. She appears to be intellectually challenged. And I say that as a kindness. Judge rules Trump not immune from January 6 actions in Georgia phone call. Remember the Raffensperger phone call where he's like, I just need some votes? Because they ripped him off down there. He knew he got ripped off in Georgia. But it was on videotape being done. And then, of course, they let the people off who were on videotape, got caught pushing the same ballots through 4 different times, and they let them go. Remember? They got off. U.S. and Israel bombs Iranian official who was brokering a deal with J.D. Vance and attempted to derail Trump's peace talks. So who's doing that? Kushner? Kushner needs to be removed. He should have never been involved with Trump's cabinet whatsoever. He's Chabad, right? Toilet on board the Orion spacecraft broke within hours of the Artemis launch. So now these guys can't take a dump? You can't make a toilet work on a $13 billion ship that you built? Isn't that amazing? Why can't you make the toilet work right? You don't have any plumbers that know how to do proper plumbing on a ship? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it would be that hard to figure it out, right? I mean, gravity is gravity, right? All you got to do is put some tubing and make the shit and piss go somewhere where it can be dealt with, right? It's not that hard. I mean, we've been doing it for hundreds of years, or at least the last 100 or so. I don't know when there was a toilet created. You know what people used to do with their stuff in New York back in the day? They just chucked the piss and shit out the fucking window. You better watch where you're walking, dude. Some guy on the second floor decides to chuck some piss out the window. You think he's looking who's out there? No. He's chucking it out the window. You better not be in the wrong spot. FBI declares major incident following cyber attack by Chinese hackers. So we just got hacked again by China. What about the SolarWinds hack? You never found out who did that. Echoes of 2008 as more investment firms limit client withdrawal. So now they're saying clients can't withdraw all their money from certain funds now. Wait, what are you talking about? It's my money. Trump tells Pam Bondi her time's running out, and then he fired her like right after. And then 3 hours later he fired her, actually. Trump fires Pam Bondi after tumultuous year of Epstein files, fumbles, and MAGA-based anger. Also, I heard that she had told something to Swalwell. She's apparently close to Eric Swalwell. and that she shared something with Swalwell she shouldn't have shared. They might have been looking at Swalwell about Fang Fang, right? ICE detains Milwaukee mosque president over alleged terror ties. Immigration fraud. Salah Sarsour, 53. Is this Linda Sarsour's relation? Because there's a Linda Sarsour that's a Muslim here who agitates a lot in the city, right? Linda Sarsour. Any relation to the Linda Sarsour in New York? I just wrote Sarsour. I couldn't remember her name at the time. So that's a big deal. President of a Milwaukee mosque has been detained by ICE for alleged terror ties and immigration fraud. So that's what I got for you guys so far. Another long news movie, I apologize, but there's a lot of information that keeps coming out. We don't seem to get anywhere though, right? All this chaos, all this stuff, but then when we look to see, is any of the core things that we need to get done being done? We don't see them being done. No med bed still, no confirmation that anybody's in Gitmo, no confirmation of any DUMBs that even exist, that kids have been brought out of those DUMBs. If there's children that were brought out of the DUMBs back in New York 3, 4, 5 years ago, where are they? Weren't they healed? And with the medical beds, can't we see them and hear their stories, that they were where they were kept, what happened to them? If you're going to just erase all their memories and heal them, how you first have to debrief them so we know what happened to them. Otherwise, you're just covering up alleged events that may or may not have happened to these people. So there's that. There's the fact that we're still being chemtrailed and into Trump's second term now is something that's highly, to me, is highly disturbing, that I think is a big problem. Do I think that the real Trump is there? No, I don't think he's been there for a long time. But even if he was, it doesn't appear he's doing the right thing if he is the real Trump. And obviously there's two different versions, but I don't know how long we're going to just sit here and allow that to happen. We're stuck in this situation where we still don't know who's running our country. We're sort of like a bunch of like sheep that are being led around, right? And we don't know anything that's going on. We're just sort of like, okay, now you're going over here. Now you're going to go pay attention to this thing. Now you're going to go watch this. Now it's Iran. Now and then it's Iraq. Then it's Cuba. Then it's this. Then it's that. But you never get to the end of the movie. You never get to the end where we win. You never get to a victory that can be proven and shown. Part of this is that people have been for years telling their families and other loved ones, hey, there's something going on here that you're not seeing. There's a battle being fought that you don't know about. And you never can see it, though. See, that's the problem. How am I supposed to go to my family that now I'm the black sheep of, right? Because I didn't take the vaccine and all this stuff, and I'm telling them all these things that I can't prove are happening, right? That's part of it. These people regurgitate stuff back to you that they think is going to happen, but they don't know is going to happen because they're trying to make you co-create what's happening. Right? They're the bad guys, the Nino Rodriguez's and the Juan O'Savins, because they don't know what's happening. They're working for people that are trying to affect a certain outcome. And they're not the people that are for the United States and its best interest, as far as I could tell. Because if you think that they would enlist your future to some guy named Juan O'Savin and Nino Rodriguez, a washed-up retired boxer, is going to be the hero that saves you, well, God help you, brother. You got a lot of work to do, right? You're not watching the situation with a logical eye and looking at it from a place of logic. You're looking at it from a place of emotion because you're being kicked all over the place from scene to scene, from craziness to craziness. Dictator Mamdani has even his far-left city council ally see in red. Here's a few other articles. Special Forces Commando at heart of $1.5 million a month mercenary killing unit funded by the royal family. So this guy's been going around killing people for the United Arab Emirates for a while. This group. There's a bunch of mercenaries that they were using to go around and kill people. Golan and some of his mercenaries. The two pitched and reached an agreement with the UAE to carry out targeted assassinations on the empire's behalf. So these guys were going around killing people all over the place. These may have been the guys that killed Soleimani. Who knows? ICE arrests the head of Wisconsin's largest Islamic group drawing condemnation. Double confirmation. Hegseth pushes out Army Chief of Staff General Randy George was asked to step down and retire immediately. Another general gone. Ranger. Are all these bad generals? Are they good generals? Then they're getting rid of all the good, loyal generals. We don't know at this point. Appeals court tosses sentence of Colorado elections clerk Tina Peters. They threw out the sentence of Peters, a former election clerk who was convicted. So now they got to sentence her again to a lighter sentence, it appears. She was sentenced to 9 years in prison, 7 of the 10 counts. So she's probably going to get less, but they're not letting her out, which is interesting. Still, even though Trump pardoned her. And I think the reason that they pardoned her is some of these people, whoever want her to disappear. But if she already made a deal with the DOJ or somebody, then they're not going to release her yet until she gives them everything that they want, and then they'll maybe release her. Right? We'll see. So that's what's going on with. And there was a mass brawl breaks out at Venice Beach homeless camp. So again, there's problems all over in LA. There's problems in the city. There's problems everywhere. You're being led to one situation to another to keep you in a state of disorder, right? Basically, a state of disorder, a state of consternation, a state of fear, and it's working, right? They're separating us by religion, by color. Still, they got us fighting with Muslims versus Jews and Christians and black versus white. The same things are still going on, right? Unfortunately, it's because these groups of people won't stop. That's the other part of the problem that Trump's never dealt with. He never really dealt with the people who are really running all these groups, Antifa. Who's funding all of it? You never went back and found out Hans-Jorg Wyss, and you never dealt with Soros, and you never dealt with all these different organizations that they've created. That's the problem. You have to shut down all these organizations that are inside the United States that are causing all this chaos, and you're not doing it. So friends, I hope you're well. I don't know how many shows I got left in me. To be honest, I'm really starting to become more and more jaded with this whole process, more and more upset, more and more angered, and I don't want to be in a place of anger anymore. I don't want to be in a place of upset and dis-ease, or whatever you want to call it, right? Of uneasiness, of fear, of anger, of all these articles. A lot of them come out to cause you to become angry, right? You see another illegal alien just killed an American citizen, another illegal alien raped somebody, and and it's all caused to make you angry, and that's never was my intent to do that, right? I'm reporting on stories that are out there that are factual things that are happening so that we can understand what's happening to us and try to find the truth. But it becomes more and more difficult when there really isn't any news organization that is telling all of the truth, and there never was, and that's the problem. And until we find an organization that is committed only to the truth and is not owned by any outside forces and is allowed to run independently, maybe we'll have some kind of real news. But until that point, we're a bunch of people, unfortunately, that are being lied to by our government, that are being manipulated by our government, that are being poisoned by our government, and nobody's doing anything about it. Is Monsanto been closed? No. Has GMO foods been made illegal? No. You're still eating red number 2 and glyphosate in your food and shit like that. None of that stuff's been taken out of your food. So, I'm not seeing the things that we need to do. We need to be moving towards free energy. We need to be moving towards clean food. We need to be moving towards things that we're not moving towards. We need to get away from oil and coal and gas and nuclear, and we're not doing that. We should be spending all of our resources on medical beds and free energy and these types of things that can heal us and help us. And instead, we're just spending all our money on stuff that can hurt us and kill us. And until that stops, I don't see much hope for humanity as a species, because we don't seem to get it. And as these Generation Y, Z, and millennials wake up and fully realize what's been going on well before they were born, they're starting to understand that they're going to be the ones that get us in there, because our Generation X can only take it so far with showing the information. There's so many people that in Generation X who are so jaded and beat down, and the generations before even worse, that they'll never be able to accept it and see it fully. They're too they'll see the forest for the trees, right? They'll miss the forest for the trees, as they say, right? You'll see it, but you won't see it because it's so big and so vast and so all-encompassing that it's hard to envision it. And when you finally do see it, you're almost in aghast and shock, and that's when you get angry. And that's what's happening to Generation Y, Z, and Millennials. So friends, I hope you're well. I'm trying to make it to 1,000 shows to leave this historical archive of what happened between 20 and 26 and 27, and what did the United States do? How did it become free? How did it free itself from people who had sought to enslave it its whole existence? From its inception, it was sought to be enslaved by the Illuminati. So friends, it's been an honor to be here doing this work. I'll continue to do so as long as I can. Try and shout out where you're listening from. I'm trying to get an idea of how many Rumble listeners I'm getting. I'm not getting almost anybody on YouTube, which means that this channel is still being highly messed with and highly, what's the word I'm looking for? Nobody's seeing the show, obviously, right? They want to keep it that way. So I hope if you can, try to share the show with friends. Try to share what's going on in the world with people that you know. I hope you're doing well, working out, stretching, staying in your center space. This is your friend in New York, Ash, NPNP News, signing off for now.